Oh, and there I go again with my own show going. Gosh dang it. Eventually I'll get better at that. How we doing, everybody? Good to have you here. Welcome to the Big 12 Mafia show, part of the College Football Mafia Network. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. With me are my three other partners for these shows. That would be the Wild Ute, Mowing After Dark, and Immaculate View. How we doing tonight, guys?
Oh, fantastic.
Just hanging out, kind of a quiet day, Just another day.
So, yeah, I was going to say this has been mentioned a few times, but I'll just grab the one that I tagged, and that is Laura Weiss says the offseason used to be boring. And there's a bunch of those, you guys. I see them. We got another one here from preseason Ohio. College football season is boring these days. And then Rock and Rant coming in, following up, saying college football trying to NFL the offseason. All right.
And succeeding.
Well, they seem to be doing right now. Tell you what, anytime this time of year is owned by the NFL, getting ready for the draft, everything else, I don't think they're very happy right now. But we can talk about that in a little bit. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. We're starting off with good numbers. Good to see everybody here on a Tuesday night. We're going to be really busy tonight. There's lots of stuff going on. We're going to try to get to most of your guys' comments as we can. Obviously, we defer to member messages first, and then we always read our super chats. Those aren't ever dropped and left behind. And lastly, if you're just here browsing, feel free to leave a comment. One of my moderators here might tag it and we'll get it on the show. But that's just how we have to do things around here. And we really appreciate everybody that participates in this part of what we're doing. All right. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. And lastly, turn on your notifications. That way you know when our tweets and our show links go out. And something special tonight that we're starting to work on, I want to just plant the bug in people's ears. We're working on a Discord server for all of you guys to talk in the off hours when we're not doing a show. We're talking, you can talk realignment all day long. You can talk about the Moen's haircut or what he might be dressed up as in the next show. But we're going to open up those channels and we're going to invite you guys to join that. But right now, this is an open invitation for moderators. If you'd like to join the College Football Mafia team as a moderator, they do have benefits. Send a DM to me. And we'll have that conversation. I'm going to try out some people, see how they do. But just know this: the entire community is going to be hot, and Discord is going to really take over your lives. So I do warn you there, just a little bit. All right, let's go around the horn. As I say, open the books and kind of see what's top of mind for everybody tonight. I'm going to start with Wild Ute. So you were working today, trying to work, I should say, and then you see all this news breaking. Kind of what's your top of mind going into the show tonight?
Clemson claws out. That's what's top of mind, the show title here. This is amazing stuff that we're seeing. It is absolutely riveting to watch and everything. It's better than any drama you could ever muster up and everything. Now we've got two lawsuits, Florida State and Clemson. The ACC is getting shot twice. They're full of holes now. They're bleeding out. This is crazy. The destruction is before us, and it's just a matter of time, and I love it. It's epic to watch, and I know that it sucks for a lot of folks, but guess what? I've been there too. I was on the other side of this, so you know what? It is what it is. Like, it's a lot more enjoyable on the other side, like watching it rather than experiencing it. But, like, I'll tell you what, it is dang entertaining.
Moen.
Yeah, I was just thinking I'm going to have to redo that Big 12 Mafia intro and add some more school logos on there.
Oh, sure. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's get it done.
That's up to you and Brett Yormark.
Man, I'm working on it. We talk every day. I'm doing the best I can.
Just give me Florida State, Notre Dame.
So not Miami and not Clemson.
I'll take anybody.
Okay. All right. Well,
but Notre Dame, as long as they're bringing Notre Dame to the table, as long as it forces Notre Dame to bend the knee, I'm for it.
That leprechaun's going to bend the knee.
Yeah, we'll have to see about that. I'm reaching out to Four Horsemen podcast. I'm going to try to get them on a show coming up, and we'll have that conversation with Notre Dame people. All right, Immaculate. You're the most detailed of all of us, dealing with these lawsuits, the legal filings for college football and college sports in general. You kind of know how some of that stuff goes. I don't know where you have time to eat and sleep, but that's what you do.
Just right before we came on.
Probably, yeah.
Both of them at the same time.
Tell everybody what you thought when you saw the notice going out about Clemson.
I'll try to talk about Clemson. Right now, I'm a little not too happy about a certain native of Iowa who was supposedly coming home, took $1 million, and just was like, nah, I think I'll go back down south with my $1 million. So trying to get over the whole Caden Proctor thing. Clemson, remember, it's one of these interesting moments, and I especially had kind of enjoyed listening to Wildy talking about his experience with it, because going through the Pack situation and now seeing this play out again, I'm sure he's realizing this stuff plays out in somewhat repetitive modes. And when we talks like, guys, something's going to break free here soon. It's going to be coming soon. Maybe Clemson, maybe not. When we talk about it, I think it kind of, people hear it, but it doesn't quite sink in. And then when a day like this happens and it just smacks everyone across the face, and I had a talk with Bomber, and we're sitting there going, we tried talking like this is coming. It doesn't matter. A day like this will always, always, always smack you in the face when it becomes real. And it's been quite illuminating. I think there's been a bigger kind of rush on X for this one than there was for the FSU one. When it was just FSU, it's like, oh, they're the odd person out. They're going to get steamrolled. Now, all the voices that back then were saying, oh, this is going to fail, it's going to fall apart. Now they're all kind of looking for the doors, looking for the exits, wondering what's going on. And that I do remember we've talked about that. When this happens, just wait for that change of tone. Wait to watch and see how all the voices change, because as a Utah man, you remember that day when that happened, when the tone changed. And now we're seeing it with Clemson and with the ACC. So here we go. Buckle up.
You want to add anything to that, Ute? He kind of called you out there.
No,
Immaculate's 100% right. I'm
Right.
agreeing with him. It is the way you're saying it. It really is. Like, the momentum is going right now. It's going to be almost impossible to stop the wave without it causing complete destruction. And just like you're saying in Immaculate, like this today is like a huge inflection point in this whole saga, because it's not just Florida State anymore. It's your two biggest brands, arguably, in the ACC. And now everybody in ACC lands on alert. Beforehand, you saw folks saying, no, it's never going to happen. It's just Florida State. They're not going to get out. With this announcement, there's really panic. And that's really phase 2 or 3 in the process and stuff. And this momentum just builds and builds like a pressure cooker. And it's going to blow. It's going to blow. We all knew it was going to blow, but this is evidence of it, and we're watching it in real time. It's nuts. It's crazy stuff.
It's really hard not to say I told you so sitting in my chair.
Don't say it, Bomber.
It's very difficult for me.
Fight it.
Who, even just as a BYU fan, not even in the Big 12, knowing we were going to be here. To me, it's so common sense. I know you guys get into the details and stuff like this. For me, it's just common sense. Utah and the rest of the Pac-12 schools came to the Big 12 because of common sense. They needed to. The safe haven in the Pac-12 was no longer there. Florida State leaves. Now Clemson leaves the ACC. Where's the common sense? Now, it is possible that they do reconstitute the ACC in some other form. It is possible nobody decides to take the life raft with the Big 12. That doesn't in any way negate the reality that the money's leaving the ACC, just like it did the Pac-12 and the Big 12 before them. And it's going to be survival mode now. Survival mode. And so, yeah, I'm going to pat myself on my back a little bit, because to me, it was very common sense, and it was just dominoes. So we'll have to see where it goes. Let me get a couple new members here before we sort of get into some of the details on this stuff. So first, we got a new member, Johnny Bard, FSU 91. Johnny. Let's get a sound of there.
Whoops.
FSU. We need a tomahawk chop is what we need. Can we get an oh? That's what we need. Oh,
Someday.
I
I'll
thought
clip
Johnny
that.
was a UCF fan. I thought we were talking to him last show, and you said something
maybe
about
he's
UCF.
changed. Maybe he found a
Maybe,
better
maybe
school.
so.
Anyway,
Yes.
Johnny Bard, thank you very much for becoming a member. I'm going to use this. Actually, I'm going to do one more membership, and then I'm going to tell everybody why being a member counts. Okay. The other one is Jeffrey Bell has become a YouTube member. Again, thank you so much, Jeffrey. The reason these are so important while I'm bringing the website is, why don't you sell Wild Ute University there?
Yeah, I mean, it's Wild Ute University is a model that's been built out to show realignment, why realignment decisions are made. And it's basically put yourself in an analyst or a researcher's point of view, and this data would be presented to the decision makers in the conference. Conference presidents and the SEC and the Big Ten, they would want to take a look at the relevant data to see if select team is a good fit in the conference. And so that's what Wild Ute University is all about with these Big Ten videos. I have one prepped up, just finished actually for the Big 12. And the Big 12 model looks a little bit different than the Big 10 because there's different needs and wants in both conferences. But it's really just a matrix model to show and kind of predict, what realignment moves are going to happen. And I think that anyone that watched Clemson, had indication that Clemson brought a lot more value than a lot of people thought a couple weeks ago. I mean, that was always really clear and everything. They were a pretty dang strong candidate in the video right there that you're showing, Bomber, and everything. And that's coming to bear now because of the lawsuit. I mean, they think so too, and they're going to get into the Big Ten or the SEC.
I'm posting the link to our Big 12 Mafia, College Football Mafia homepage. I want everybody to, if you're not already a member, definitely tune in and watch those videos that are free. There is one more, and you alluded to this, but
Georgia Tech.
We have this little membership tag over here, and the ones that are in this space are members only. So that's what those memberships will do for you. So after our show tonight, for all the new members, go to our page and watch this Georgia Tech before it goes away and it comes. You're going to know more today than your neighbor does because you are a member of the College Football Mafia family. So that's how that works. We really appreciate everybody that's become a member. We got another call out real quick here. Lonnie Johansson has been a member for 2 months. That is fantastic.
Winner.
Lonnie. Really, really appreciate your loyalty. Let me get this off here so we can see everybody's face. His note is good evening from Northeast Kansas. Go BYU. I'm all right with that. Thank you, Lonnie.
Very
I really
nice.
appreciate it. All right. Let's now dive into the topic at hand. So do you want me to show the article, Immaculate, or how do you want to present kind of what happened today?
I mean, you could use the article. We can use it as kind of a
Okay. I'm happy to.
skeleton structure for what
Okay.
we're doing.
Let me post the link for it then. Start telling everybody what happened with Clemson today.
Clemson said "F you" to the ACC. I mean, no, that's not really the
Basically.
Kind of.
I mean,
Kind of.
what we had is Clemson filed their suit against the ACC. Some would say surprisingly so. I think people were looking for this to happen, but I think this happened sooner than we thought it would happen. According to some sources, which I think we'll see in the article you're going to show,
Right.
this isn't quite the same as what FSU is doing. They're making some of the same challenges, but they're not just outright saying like their goal is to leave. And they're not going after ESPN in the same way. So it's kind of a lighter lawsuit, if that's possible, but it's for real. I mean, they're looking to say that if they were to leave, that their rights wouldn't stay because of the gore, which is basically saying the gore doesn't exist. It's a granting of rights. But they're saying if they leave, it doesn't stay with that. The granting of rights only exists while they're in the conference. And I kind of agree with that. These are
there is some common sense to that thinking,
there is,
by the way.
yeah, these are their natural rights.
Right.
It's not a commodity. It's theirs. And so while you're in the conference, you're granting your rights to the conference. But this whole idea that the conference can hold your natural rights in perpetuity, even if you're gone or whatever, that's being challenged. And if that goes through, every single grant of rights going forward is different. I'm not going to say no value, because there is value to it. It just means you can't look at it like it's a prison cell anymore. It's not holding someone against their will, and that's really going to take off the chains of realignment, guys. Like, if you I can't begin to say, like, that opens up realignment from so many different angles if it's true. So in that respect, Clemson's lawsuit might be more important than Florida State's.
And Immaculate, are there different points being argued amongst the Clemson Florida State lawsuits that you're aware of? Like, so Clemson's lawsuit's a little bit different, right, in approach than the Florida State. Can you outline those strategies?
You're really going to want to kind of get into the details of this. It's been a pretty wild ride all day.
Okay,
but,
we can go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say the real difference that I've seen is I don't think Clemson is going after the ACC saying, for fraudulent means. I guess is what I think. They're not riding that line of criminal behavior. It's really they're just challenging these legal positions of like what the Gore works. Does it actually hold true if you're gone? And they're challenging the exit fee amount, saying it's punitive, and the value that, like, the $140 million. So they're challenging these two things mainly. But one of the things they did say in there is that they were not invited to a vote on the whole complaint on Florida State, and that they didn't know anything about it. And so they've basically stated their position on that. And so that leaves me wondering if this is a larger campaign, if we're going to start to see some other schools doing the same.
Before we go to the next thing, or I know Ute has more questions, let's do shout outs really quick. We're a half hour in, we're 18 minutes in, and now we're over 100 people watching this live. Let's do some shout outs so people know that we're paying attention to them. The first one is so far back, it takes a second to get to. All right, here we go. First one tonight was David Hackett saying the start of ACC demise.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been here, you know what that means. And then I'm going to follow that up with David Hackett, who, by the way, is a member, says, hello, Big 12 Mafia Tuesdays, the best with Bomber, Moen, Immaculate, and Wild Ute. Thank you very much.
David.
We appreciate it, David. Buckshot Kid, you weren't first, but you're in here. He says, oh, hi, the College Football Mafia show. Thank you very much. Timothy Green is in the house. Big 12 Mafia rocks. Boy, I'm liking this, guys. Who paid these guys to do this for us?
Moen did. Look at Moen's outfit tonight. He's the big mafia boss tonight.
He is too. He's looking like the Godfather. Joaquin Morales, another member, says, greetings, Big 12 Mafia, College Football Mafia family. Smash that like button. Let's go. Thank you very much. Those are some loyal members. You join Big 12 Mafia, College Football Mafia. We are going to be loyal to you, and it's a nice club, and it's growing. Jan Holk is in the house all the way from Slovenia. Let's see here. He said, what is this? He says the Immaculate Caden Proctor re-enter the portal. Who's he talking about there? Tell everybody what that means.
He's talking about the 5-star offensive lineman that left Alabama after the whole Saban ordeal and went back to Iowa. He's from Iowa. He was set to join Iowa. He had committed. And then Alabama, in usual Alabama fashion, they always come up to Iowa and steal a guy away from the Hawks, whomever they're looking at, whether it be on the line or a tight end. And so he went down there. He came back. He's committed back to coming back to Iowa. Took $1 million in NIL. And then the day before the actual, signing in or whatever day, he pulled out and is now re-enrolling back in Alabama. So he came back home.
Holy smokes.
To take $1 million, and then he's going back to Alabama.
That is absolutely insane.
I got to tell you, I have not seen a lot of Hawk fans as of late on Twitter. Just we went divergent ways kind of after some things that happened. They've all just reappeared on my Twitter all of a sudden. They are angry.
Actually, can I ask you a question? Is this the one that was celebrated last summer It
Yeah,
made
yeah,
headline
this was
news. The
this was
5-star.
not long ago. This was
Oh my
not long
gosh,
ago.
that is
He
insane.
he hasn't even been there. Like, I wonder if maybe he didn't like what the new offensive coordinator has to show. Maybe there's the quarterbacks having some issues, health issues. But the fact that he
That's
did this
crazy.
on the day before you'd have to like register,
Right.
it just kind of
And if
stinks.
you can get $1
Kinda
million
smells.
and not have to do anything, that would be fantastic.
Are
All
you
right,
sure that he didn't have to pay that back? Was that like an upfront payment? Do you have any idea? Like, I
I
mean, that
don't,
sounds like
and
a breach of contract to
everyone's
me.
talking as if he doesn't have to. But I'm sitting here going, you mean to tell me they don't have contracts for that? I
I'm
mean,
telling you, NIL is a joke.
if they don't, then fools on you. Like, that's on the collective for being a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
So
Like we hear stories about this. There's contracts tied to these that you're there for a certain while, otherwise you got to pay it back. If they didn't do that, then they're idiots.
that's a great segue because we're going to have Danielle Kelly's going to be joining us, and one of a massive contributor, a lawyer, and has worked on NIL contracts. So we'll ask
Oh,
her
yeah.
that on top of
Okay.
the Clemson stuff. So let's we're gonna be busy tonight, guys. All right,
Man.
Cleveland Rocks $5 says which ACC schools will realistically be calling Brett Yormark, inquiring about the Big 12. Let's be honest, it won't be Miami, UNC, Clemson, and FSU. You're putting your head up and down.
100% Cleveland Rocks. It won't be those four because they're not coming to the Big 12. We've been saying that all along.
Yeah.
One of the schools that is a more attractive candidate than you'd think is Syracuse. I'm telling you guys, Syracuse. Of course, it's going to be Virginia Tech, NC State, and probably the most attractive two will be Pitt and Louisville. So those five, and Georgia Tech. Throw Georgia Tech into there. There's six right there. Duke, maybe.
Basketball.
There's a seventh.
It is possible.
For basketball, just culturally, it doesn't
Yeah.
fit the Big 12 at all.
It doesn't.
I have a hard time seeing Duke in the Big 12, but I think the six laid out there with Syracuse being a huge, prospect here that you wouldn't think is like as valuable as they are.
Thank you very much, Cleveland Rocks, for the super chat. Do you want to answer that, Immaculate? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, was not Syracuse, though, on the list of schools that the Virginia president reached out to here in that recent filing from the ACC? We saw who they reached out to for the specific vote. And Syracuse was on that very short list.
The list of
very
10?
it was even smaller list than that. It was Virginia, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Wake Forest, Boston College. There's
Trying to
one
get
more.
that list on this article.
But it was basically a list
I
of.
want to make sure we get the
private,
right schools.
I mean, I understand the valuation of Syracuse, but right now, our one bit of real evidence from the
Right.
inside is that they seem to be in line with the faction of ACC that's sticking around behind.
Well, of course, yeah, but that was with FSU, trying to breach their head. Now it's Clemson, and
It's
now
true.
they see this.
It's true.
It's
That can
different.
change.
That's completely changed. And like in Syracuse doesn't have a Big 10 or SEC landing spot. Jumping to the Big 12 is not, there's not financial upside to that, guys. It's a lateral move. Let's be honest, ACC is getting more payouts than the Big 12 right now. So Syracuse doesn't have a lot of incentive to jump unless it completely falls apart. And that's exactly what's going to happen.
I think with Florida State and Clemson being part of this, everyone's thinking that this has raised the likelihood of ESPN not picking up the extension. And that doesn't mean ESPN and ACC are done. That just means they'll have to renegotiate a new deal. That, to me, that's what that means. I don't think they're going to be out of the ACC business. They're going to get it cheaper.
Let's get to some more business here. Expedition Greg has become a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Expedition Greg. It's been great to have you around here, and we really appreciate you. And another super chat from Tony Lawson. Immaculate, I feel terrible for Iowa.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
that
sure
tongue-in-cheek, or?
Well, look, if you look at the emoji after that, he's laughing with tears coming out of his
Oh,
eyes.
man.
So
It's
Tony. It's a gopher. I do not
Not
expect
Tony.
sympathy at all from any gopher, including Greg, if he was to show up. So it is what it is.
Let me get to some more shout outs. By the way, if you want to look up those schools, Immaculate, while we're doing the shout outs, find out actually which 10 schools did they call.
Well, we don't have that. What we had was an actual filing. The president said
Right.
some schools, the way it was phrased is
And
like these were the schools that voted.
Right. And was
for the
Syracuse one of those?
Syracuse, Wake Forest, Boston College,
Okay.
Virginia Tech, and there was one more because I think there
Okay.
were 6.
Wake
and that-
Forest, Boston College.
Wake Forest,
Okay.
Boston College, Duke.
Anyway,
Duke,
I just
Duke, and
I just
Duke,
wanted to
Syracuse.
be clear on the numbers. That's all I was saying.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not clear. We're getting a lot of different reports right now, and the only one that I've seen that possibly perjury in court if you're lying is this one from the president from Virginia, and who was on there. The rest seem to. Moen's having a laugh at my expense again here, but yeah, no, the rest are just kind of these anonymous reports of without naming anybody. So.
Let's get a quick shout out. We got a friend of the show, Coos Corner, is in the audience. We appreciate him being here. Thanks a lot, Coos. It's good to see you. And Moen, I'm going to give you a couple seconds here.
Yeah, Kuz is going to be contributing some stuff to our members only section here in the near future. Tomorrow, I will put up a new video in the members only section of a very topic that's very close to my heart. I disagree with Kuz on it, but Notre Dame. So tune in tomorrow in the members section to check out Kuz's Corner special video on Notre Dame, and make sure you head over if you haven't yet, head over to Kuz's Corner and subscribe to his channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
If
Can you give us some more deets on that? I need a little bit more information, Moan. Come on.
Well, Kuz believes that Notre Dame will not be forced to join a conference.
Hey, my guy. I mean, that's horrible.
Well, forced is in quotes, though. That could mean many things.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But
Right.
he doesn't believe conference realignment is going to push Notre Dame into a conference.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil it.
Sure.
Tune in and find out.
Let me get to some more shout outs and then we'll get back into our regular news here. Let's see here. Glenn Lumen is here all the way from the Philippines saying, good morning from the Philippines. Will the Big 12 stop expanding if they get 4 schools from the ACC? Anyone?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one.
Go ahead.
That's a great question right there. If the Big 12, and you know what, you've got to ask yourself this question: if you're the Big 12, what schools add value to all the existing members? And not just add schools because you can add schools, but who actually increases the revenue pie for everybody? And that list is actually a little smaller than you'd think. I'm serious, guys. So it might be a situation where the Big 12 actually decides on expanding with 2 teams instead of even 4 or more,
Right.
based on really how much value those 2 teams can provide and the synergies they can provide. So while I do still think 20 is probably the play to go for 4, add 4 more, I don't see going beyond 20. No way. And I see possibly just 2.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Imagine them getting NC State and Virginia Tech.
Well, imagine those 2 getting left out.
Man, that is some trouble there. All right, let's keep going then. I know that Sergeant Pickles and Becky are also in the audience. I didn't want to think I forgot about them. Thanks for being here, guys. It's a busy show. I've got Danielle Kelly's going to be joining us. We're going to talk some legal stuff, so I don't think we're going to get it to any other people, but who knows what happens at the end of the show. I have to leave a little bit early. So let's see here. Let's get some more shout-outs. Laura Weiss, we already did. Daniel Gygax is in the house. OPD Don finally made another live show. He says, howdy, I finally made a whole show, right? It's been a while, and I would say that that Clemson doing this, that UNC has told them they are the ready now. You know what that means?
Yeah, they're ready to go. UNC's probably the next to file. Yeah.
Ready to
and
go.
He's probably right.
Okay.
He's probably nails on that.
Probably.
So.
Let's get just a couple more, and then we'll.
They were the third no vote. There was 3 no votes. We've got 2 of them that filed now.
Very good. Congo, a member. Thanks for being here, Congo. Coy is here. Says hi all. Let's see. Expedition Greg D5 Terps says go Terps. It's not quite the same as go Big 12, but that's okay. Let's see here. I think that's where we're going to end because we're over like 500 comments already. All right. So let me get a couple more shout outs that are official, not manufactured. One of them is Moen. What is this?
Wow, Moen. You're on mute, Moen.
You're on mute. We can't hear you.
I had to switch my YouTube window because Nate asked me to give some memberships. So we're gifting some memberships to the community. And North End Zone U, Hummus Hero,
Nice.
Papa Cade, Tuffy Duffy, and Don Scruggs. You've all been welcome to the family. Tune in tomorrow for that video from Couz's Corner on Notre Dame. I think you'll really want to see it. It's got some interesting perspectives. I might have to do a counter perspective video.
That would be good. I would like that.
Hey, also, we've got Georgia Tech to the Big Ten that you can view too before it goes live to the public here in a couple days, and then we'll be recording another fit video, and that's going to be with Wazoo and Oregon State fit to the Big 12 conference. That's the next one up, and guys, it's good. It's really good. I'm excited to present it for y'all.
One more.
Danielle.
Yeah, hang on. Let me get this Sarge message out here. He's been a member for 4 months. Hi, Danielle. You know you're my favorite. He's been a member for 4 months now, and he's been a great contributor to the Mafia family. We appreciate that. Says, thank you for not Altamore blocking. Not sure.
Of course not, Sarge.
Thank you very much, Sarge. We appreciate you being here. All right. Danielle, you've been busy. The last 2 days have been crazy in the legal realm. We talked to Doug Rohan a little bit last night. He was doing the instant reaction. You're now at a better position because not only do you get to see what happened last night, but now you get to roll in this Clemson news today.
Yep.
What's going on? Tell us what we're missing.
Well, what was filed yesterday, we're still doing everybody was doing their supplemental filings heading into the hearing. And this is the one that's in North Carolina between Florida State and the ACC on Friday. That's the 22nd. And so that was the deadline to file. And the two motions that'll be heard that day are Florida State's motion to dismiss the ACC complaint. Of course, as you guys know, they filed first. And then also the motion to seal documents filed by the ACC, because they don't want this stuff becoming public. So that deals with Friday. Those are all the pleadings we've had leading into that. Today, though, Clemson filed a lawsuit against the ACC. So that's whole new territory. Fun stuff.
Have you had much of a chance to even look into that yet, or are we still dealing with the FSU situation?
Well, I've read the Clemson complaint. I have read that, and I see what they're saying, and it's a little different than Florida State's, but it's a lot the same, if you ask me. But if you have to look at both complaints in the preliminary stages, what Clemson has done is they've just now filed. Florida State was more bare bones when they first filed too, but then, of course, the ACC, responded. We amended our complaint, and we got to the point where we were like, okay, we're going to start naming names, and we start bringing up Swafford and Raycom and all kinds of fun stuff. Clemson's more in the initial stages, I would say, with this right now, if that makes sense. And the difference also that Clemson has filed in South Carolina. Everybody has to remember that the ACC filed suit against Florida State first without a vote in North Carolina, and Florida State took their proper vote of the Board of Trustees and filed suit in Tallahassee after. So there's two suits.
The lawsuits in 3 states, Danielle? Is that what you're saying? 3 different states?
Yes, 3 states. One going on in North Carolina that is ACC versus Florida State. One going on in Florida here in Tallahassee, which is FSU versus the ACC. And then now one in South Carolina, which is Clemson versus the ACC. So, yeah. No shortage of legal news these days.
Go ahead, Immaculate. Yeah.
I was going to say, so do you think that they're looking for the exact same? Because to me, it seemed like FSU's was a little more cutting to the core of it, whereas Clemson seems to be dealing with some like periphery issues. Like, what does a gore really hold you to? And is this exit fee really fair? I mean, we have a comment coming up too from someone who compared the differences in the exit fees between the conferences, and the ACC's is just astronomically higher.
Yeah.
So if are they working together? Like, is this like taking two different tracks so that way it's not the same, basically the same proceedings held in multiple courts, but to actually like make the ACC fight on multiple fronts? Is that kind of what we're seeing here, you think, or is that just maybe looking too far into this?
Honestly, that's a great question. Because initially when all this started, I kind of felt like Florida State and Clemson were doing this good cop, bad cop thing.
Okay.
Like we got set up to take everything and all the blows and arrows and come out with everything. And then now Clemson is getting involved and it's a little bit more bare bones. I think both were on the same track. However, given the news between what was it, ESPN and the College Football Playoff today, Clemson filing suit on the same day, and the whole jurisdiction argument that's going to come up in North Carolina on Friday. Yeah, it kind of looks, I'm not going to lie and say it doesn't look suspicious. Like something, I don't know. Or maybe it's just Clemson saying, okay, Florida State really may win this. Because I don't think what happens Friday with in North Carolina, I almost said UNC because I have some of their fans trolling me on Twitter tonight.
Yeah.
I bet you're getting a lot.
They've been very active today.
Yes.
In North Carolina, between FSU and the ACC is necessarily determinative of the outcome because you still have the case pending in Florida. So I mean, the wisest thing to me would be at this point, because you have two separate state proceedings going on, one of FSU versus ACC here, one Clemson versus ACC in South Carolina, would be for the judges in North Carolina to say, okay, we're going to stay this case until, those outcomes are determined, because it really, I think jurisdiction belongs in the individual states. I do. However, North Carolina, not the ACC rushed to file suit in North Carolina to circumvent venue against Florida State. So
let me get a couple super chats here, and I need to correct the gifted memberships thing. That was actually done by Moen. So everybody pat him on the head and tell him thank you, please. I don't want anybody not getting the proper recognition. Sorry about that, Moen. That was my fault. We got a couple super chats really quick. Tuffy Duffy, who's a member, says, great show. Thank you, Tuffy. Rock and Rad, who's become a second son to our channel and has helped us up. He's actually helping us with the Discord server. For super chat, he says 3 states now. What triggers federal venue change? And that was going to be one of my questions, is at what point you have 3 or 4 of these schools now leaving, does it become, do they all join together, do you think, Danielle? Or do they stay separate? Are they more powerful one way or the other? And lastly, the jurisdiction thing is still hanging out there. What promotes this from just a state affair to federal?
Well, because we're dealing with state law claims right now on all the cases.
Okay.
If I file a case in state court and it has federal claims in it, and I can, if I have state and federal claims and I file a case here, sometimes the other party will remove me to federal court. We'll do a motion for removal to federal court, which federal court has jurisdiction over those claims. Now you're getting into territory where we could have conflicting rulings. Are the complaints similar enough that it could impact, that federal law needs to kind of intervene in this situation? So there is a possibility that will happen. However, we also have to keep in mind that the ACC and FSU are themselves battling over who's going to have jurisdiction on this on a state level anyway. But I think we're headed in that, like I said, the ideal situation would be for the court in North Carolina to stay this, to recognize the ACC filed suit first, just in a race to the courthouse without a vote, and leave that alone, and then let South Carolina and let Florida handle it separately. But eventually you're getting to the situation now where we may end up in federal court. Do I think that that's going to have a negative impact? No, not at all. Like I've said repeatedly, eventually judges have to be judges and apply the law, and federal judges will apply the correct state law depending. But you're getting into an issue where, especially since Florida State's claiming antitrust violations statewide, but you're also going to get into a situation where does federal antitrust actually affect this at some point? My opinion on that. That's my opinion.
Sorry about
Danielle,
that.
how many other lawsuits could possibly pop up? So, like, is there potential for North Carolina UNC to file its own lawsuit and Miami to file its own lawsuit? Could there
Yeah.
just be a string of lawsuits? And, like, I guess, like, from a public perception standpoint, what happens there? Is there any legal issues with a bunch of lawsuits being filed at the same time because it really discounts the value of your conference or causes like mucks things up?
Yeah,
Is that possible?
that is possible, and that's where you will get into this situation where we could end up in federal court. I do believe, in just my opinion, I believe more than Clemson and Florida State are going to file suit. I think at this point, I don't know if everybody's waiting to see what happens on the 22nd, but let me tell you, Florida State could lose lose the motion to dismiss on the 22nd, and the ACC could win the motion to seal still. And
Right.
nothing's going to change the fact that we have a Florida suit that's going to be heard here on April 9th. The judge has freedom to stay the case here, but eventually you're going to get to the point where if you have enough schools filing, we're going to have to handle it on some kind of level. Otherwise, you could potentially end up with 4 different state rulings maybe, and then you have to have somebody battle it out. Anybody can take anything up on appeal. And of course, in the appellate courts, then you can get into the federal jurisdiction of that.
Are we
So-
likely heading that way, in your view, at the moment, given the current state of things?
Question. It's a great question. I think it's entirely possible. It depends. How similar are these complaints? How similar are our arguments and stuff? Is it one, because courts like, efficiency? Is it at that point where we need to put them together and in the interest of efficiency and have one court decide all? So, but you're dealing with various state law claims too on this. Clemson law is not Florida State, is not Florida law that applies to Florida State. So
theoretically, how long could this get pushed out towards? Like, I mean, what date in the future, if this went up to the different levels federally, like how long can the ACC hold on to these teams without them breaking away or settling? In other words, could this be like a 5-year process? It could be like a 6 months, 1 year. Yeah, like timelines, like ballpark.
If you involve federal courts, and if it's an issue of high public importance, you can get. It's still going to take a lot longer if you get to that point. I think, and I've explained this. Settlement is the best option. It is not in the interest of either party at this point to drag this out. I'm being honest. Florida State and Clemson, let's be real, have the money to pay something to leave, and have Florida State made it very clear they want out. So Clemson's getting there. We're baby stepping, but Clemson, we're baby stepping, but they have the money to get out. The question is going to be what happens with the other schools that are behind. So,
Immaculate or Moan, you have any follow up?
For me, I guess I'm trying to look at this in terms of timelines. I feel like Clemson maybe wanted to do this earlier, but I feel like maybe they didn't have the same nod that Florida State had in terms of a place to go. And I think what happened over the last week with the CFP, they got their nod. And so that's why when I was asking, do these look like 2 different strategies, 2 different tasks in order to have, it's like maybe this was actually planned to go off at the same time, but Clemson not getting the nod from a conference might have pushed this one back. So it kind of feels like maybe they're going to have to play a little catch up, but that's why I was kind of curious on what you thought in terms of it looking like there was 2 different strategies.
A little bit on different strategies. Clemson seems more protective kind of the ESPN, SEC. You can see a lot's blogged out. They're actually like quoting the ESPN agreement though. And I can bring up, the grant of rights and their conversation on that, but they're a little bit more, I would say right now, sounds friendly. I think Florida State came out more so in the sense of we're tired of all of it, because ESPN is in control of the ACC and SEC GORs. So Clemson sounds a little bit more friendly, and I think I still believe in my heart of hearts, and I know a lot of people have different opinions. The SEC may want Clemson. You know, they're into rivalries, they're into that stuff. It's like we've all discussed, it may not necessarily be about markets as much anymore. You have South Carolina as their rival, stuff like that. So who knows? It is a little bit of a different angle, but we are in the infancy. Like I said, Clemson is. Wait till the ACC responds and they get to have to amend their complaint. Like
So,
we
Danielle, are you predicting Clemson to the SEC here?
I can't say that they would. I just think FSU doesn't necessarily need a travel partner. And I don't think, you know, to go with us. I think Florida State has had their eyes on the big, of course. Like I've made clear, I think the SEC's only negotiating standpoint with us would be that ESPN is in control of both GORs. So it could be like, okay, you know, if you're unhappy in this classroom, you poor little bad child, Florida State, we're going to move you to the bigger classroom. And, you know, and you can, and I don't think Florida State wants to get in bed with the same people, the same snakes that they've been dealing with, if that makes sense. So that's my take on it. But Clemson, I don't think they've been more consistently happy with whatever, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they seem to respect everything that ESPN wanted to keep tied up. Like they're not challenging any of that in this, or whatever ESPN wants to be sealed. Clemson is saying, okay, we're cool with that. So it does seem like maybe the increase in their value with the CFP has now made the SEC say, okay, there's enough. When we get the relook in 2028, we know Clemson's going to help us maintain or take even more value, more ownership percentage. So yeah,
I agree. I mean, they're really not, and Florida State's just kind of out swinging. Like everything needs to be public. All of it, you know, from day one, because and Clemson references that in the complaint. Clemson kind of does a dual-edged sword on that one because they reference the GOR in the complaint. And I've, you know, long said I was able years ago to obtain a copy of the GOR because a reporter in North Carolina did, and it, you know, on a public records request. And it's like, what, 3 pages? But it keeps referencing the ESPN agreement as the consideration. And I've explained what consideration is. It's what binds a contract. We both get something of value. Yeah. They keep referencing that agreement. And Clemson is even saying you cannot read them in isolation from each other. At the same time, what Immaculate just said, they're not necessarily wanting it to be public. So
very fair. Let me get some more business done here. We're 45 minutes in. Daniel joined the show, and like 100 people joined right after she joined the show. So we want to appreciate and say thank you to those new people that joined. We're over 200 live on YouTube and almost 200 on Twitter, and we're just blowing up all over the place. So I want to recognize everybody who's here tonight. It's a Tuesday night, not usually our biggest nights, but big news. Yesterday there was news about Clemson potentially doing something, and then Clemson did something. The Florida State lawsuit had some clarifying yesterday, and then it got a little muddy, and it looks like maybe March 22nd won't be that big of a deal. So we'll have to find out. A lot of these things come down to the judges' discretion, and so we're glad you're here to help us talk about it. Mike Smith has a comment here. He's one of our members. Paul Catalina at 365, they do a good job. Paul Catalina and the Smokes, it's a fantastic show, and I think this is a good point we should consider. This will be for you, Danielle. He brought up a good point today. Even if FSU Clemson would get a partial payment in the Big or SEC going in, similar to Washington and Oregon did to the Big Ten, they will get new contract. They will get a new contract before the ACC negotiates another time. So there's a whole other negotiating window that's hanging out there that they could get another raise before the ACC contract even ends.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's so ongoing. What exactly the example you just provided, that's so true. There's so much ongoing with all of this, even through the lawsuit, you know, that Clemson filed today and the questions that we have now about what, you know, even with going back to consideration and new contracts and stuff like this. When it comes to the GOR with us, we have to remember ESPN has until February of 2025 to exercise their option. That is to push us through 2036 with them. And they haven't even, I mean, I don't know if I would look at this mess and say, hey, I want to sign up, you know, let me sign up to, you know, for this. But that is a great point. They would get a new contract before the ACC would.
And I've got a
agree.
question for everybody. Okay, we've talked a lot
Yeah.
about February 2025, about that date ESPN has the option to
Right.
continue with the contract or opt out. Like, what realistically, let's talk about this. What happens if ESPN says no on that? They have funded a bunch of money into the ACC network. Like, really, what is the fallout and what actually happens at that time? Is it simply a renegotiation for a lower dollar amount? Is it saying, no, we're not doing business with you guys anymore? Is it folding the ACC network? Like, what potential ramifications are there if they say no?
It could be
Immaculate.
either or. Either
Oh,
or
sorry.
is what
Go
you
ahead,
said.
Danielle.
No, I apologize. I'm
No,
saying
no,
it
you're
could
fine.
be either or. It could be we're not doing business with you anymore. They obviously already have a lucrative track with the SEC now and the college football playoff. It could be, we're going to cut off this dead weight, or it could be negotiate for a lower amount. That's going to strengthen Clemson and FSU's argument, though, because they're completely complaining. It weakens the overall value of the broadcast rights. The problem with it is Florida State and Clemson are already alleging, compared to everybody else, they're too weak.
Right.
It's a minimum escalation fee and all that fun stuff. So I think that would be a drawing line in the sand. I would treat it that way. But it would also help the other schools potentially negotiate for less money to get out of it if they would decided to leave. If there's anything left of the ACC at this point, I mean,
Right.
we have to be honest with each other.
Yeah, that's very true. Immaculate, you want to answer Ute's question?
At this point in time, we're just dipping our toes into this. In terms of where this is going, what they could do in the future, there's going to be a big difference. As this point is making, they will actually get a chance, even if they have to take partial payments in one of those other conferences, they'll get out of that before they'd get out of the ACC deal as it is. And a partial payment in one of those could still be the same as they're making in the ACC.
Mhm.
So it's really not a loss. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. This is still very fresh. I think we're probably going to get more news on this through the week as well.
Now I understand. Okay, I apologize if I misanswered that question. Now I completely
fine.
get what you're talking about.
Go
I
ahead.
apologize. No, but I mean, to FSU, a partial payment from either of them
Right.
would be the same. So, I mean, you have to look at it as a whole. We have really nothing to lose. I think that makes the most sense.
I mean,
being
look at what
honest.
Oregon and Washington are getting. It's really not that much different than
Exactly right.
in the ACC.
Yeah.
And if that's worst case scenario, it's
That's
okay.
true. Let me get to
And
a
then you
couple
have to
super
consider
chats.
new CFP payouts too, right?
Yeah.
That's another
Oh, yeah.
consideration.
And that's
You guys,
None
have
of
just
that.
one point, Bomber, and then we'll get. I'm telling you
Yeah.
guys that it's so advantageous to get into the Big Ten of the SEC that the SMU approach of taking zero media distributions for a period of time, 7, 8, 9 years, will make long-term sense, even for FSU or Miami or anybody. I don't
Sure.
think that's going to happen to one of them, but like the numbers actually would certainly pencil in a strong way out long-term just to get out and play for freebie, essentially media rights wise, and get some college football playoff money. That's just how different the dollars are. It's double the money, right? And so in the
Right.
long run, you're really benefiting. So they're going to be desperate to get out of the sucker.
Great point.
Let me get to a couple super chats. Let's see here. Scott White, Florida. Good to have you here, Scott. He's been a member for a while now. We appreciate that. $4.99 super chat. Says, now that we have the financial numbers on the CFP money distribution, how much money will Group of 5 team get in total if they won the Natty? Ooh, immaculate. Have you done that math?
No, because I saw this question. A
That's a
group
good
of 5
question.
team,
I
I
don't know.
don't like in 26 and beyond. I don't, from what we saw in the report, there's no participation value. Like 24 and 25, they're paying out per each round that you make it.
Right.
And then, but they're just putting everything into the one payout. So really, what you see is what you get. And I think that's why we heard that the Group of 5 leaders were not very happy with this deal, even though, it's a pay raise. They're not going to get a chance to play through, which I think most people are going to say, like, really, how far would you go? But they don't have the possibility to actually make more for going in farther. What they're getting in that payout is what they're getting.
I wonder
So
if that changed
immaculate.
with this Washington State and Oregon State thing.
That's a good question.
Could that have changed? Because
we
that
don't
dynamic
know.
changed just today.
Yeah, we don't know. Like, we've got these reports coming out. I don't want to go too much because we don't know, but some statements are coming out of the Pac-12/Pac-2
Right.
of that they're very happy with the deal that they just made and going forward. And so I'm sitting here going, what's the deal?
Right.
We know that there's an independence participation payout that doesn't include the G5.
Right.
It's just for independence. So like Notre Dame, they're getting a regular payout and that if they get in, they're actually going to be that deal might have been better for Notre Dame than we realized.
That's a whole rant I will save for another day.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure
We'll
Mullen's
do
gonna
that on a
jump in
different
too.
show. Go
But
ahead,
yeah.
Mute.
Yeah, so Immaculate, you're saying that Boise State, if they made the playoff and went on an epic run and won the national championship, that their overall payout, their all-in payout would be $1.8 million. That's basically kind of what you said in a real-life example.
Let me
So
ask
Boise
you a question
State-
in response to that.
Sure.
Are we talking 2025 or are we talking 2026?
Yeah, that does matter.
Because it's on
Six.
that 26. I know, but that's the point to make is, it dropped. They get more direct, but if they do have that amazing approach, it's not really benefiting them. Like it's just
That's horrible, guys. That's absolutely horrible.
It's that secret little detail of it when we say, why were they upset about this? They're getting more money. Well, they're getting less drive to actually succeed.
I would also say with the public outcry for Washington State and Oregon State getting their money increased, I could see the same thing happen for G5 payout, that there would be some sort of a merit system. If they made it through the first round, they get a bonus.
Mhm.
I could see that coming. Now they can amend that contract without almost any checks and balances. So
Well,
I would see if something happened, they would take care of it.
I think the way that'll go is if they get some that go further than the first round,
Right.
you'll probably see that become part of the 2028 look-in window as they look into participation and how much you've been involved. If they actually can achieve it, they will get something for it. I think personally,
I think so too.
it just won't be that same during that year's payout. It'll come in the 2028 look-in.
Right. Daniel Gygax, the other super chat that we had to get to. Thanks, Daniel. I hope you're being patient. We're really busy tonight, so don't get us too hard for waiting a little bit. He says, if Clemson adds the ACC gore, ends the ACC gore, would that invalidate every other gore? This was a question. And then there will be a ton of chaos. So is that true, Danielle? If the ACC goes down and that gore holds no water, does that mean every conference gore is null and void?
Oh, this has been a subject today. Now these are questions I'm a little bit more prepared for.
Excellent.
No, let's be okay. We have to look at it in the sense of, it would establish precedent that you can challenge your grant of rights. Absolutely. But we also have to understand that a lot of schools, especially heading in, the market also dictates what is fair and unfair in these kind of situations. Who would want to get out of a GO? I mean, look at what ESPN and SEC just signed. Who would want to get out of that? Then you can't isolate it. You have to look at what the ACC schools have signed up for necessarily that we wasn't all known to us. I think FSU called it draconian. That's the word, this draconian grant of rights. Who would want to get out of those? Yes. Will there be precedent you can use? Absolutely. There will be precedent. You can say, well, look, FSU did it. So, hey, or Clemson, which both, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily, who would want to, because some of them may be much more fair than, what we've signed up for. So I don't want to say that we signed up for after, before they breach their fiduciary responsibility. Let me do the lawyer disclaimer language.
Go ahead.
All that fun stuff.
I do. I love it. That's why you're here.
So, it would. You'll have precedent on the book, but will it invalidate them? No, not unless the school challenges it. But who would want to? Vanderbilt's making more than Florida State. So there you go.
I guess this one's directed really at the ACC and the Big 12. If there's an opportunity to jump over into the Power 2, like what would that mean for a Big 12 team?
There has to be an invitation. It's not like you can go and knock on the door and say, I don't have a home.
But we're talking theoretically here with the gore, invalidation of a gore. Do you really have like a tether, right? And
I
what,
actually see it the reverse. I see the Gores going away and a third super conference constituted from the remains of all three conferences. That's what I see.
Entirely possible. I mean, if you look, because people have compared this with me on Twitter, if you look at how the Big 12 and the ACC have handled this, everybody, some people love to say they're the same thing. No, they are not.
Right.
I watched how the Big 12 worked, to go after ESPN, cease and desist letters and this kind of stuff to shut them down. The ACC was working behind the scenes to sabotage their schools. You cannot compare the two. I think the Big 12's handled it a lot better. So, and I agree.
That's Texas lawyers for you.
I agree.
Impressive.
I agree. Yeah, Merry Christmas. I agree. I mean, it's kind of like, with the NCAA thing, with the Big and the SEC wanting to kind of break away and establish their own third, second, I guess, power. The situations are very comparable to me, like what you said. I think that could work.
If I may, Bomber, real quick on this.
Sure, go ahead.
I think it really comes down to what an individual thinks of when they think of a Gore. What do you think of as just a contract where the school is saying, here's our natural rights to combine with the rest of the schools in order to make a contract that you then get as a conference to then pay all of us? That's what I think of when I think of Gore. Now, some people look at them as if they're also like this legally, contractually binding, we own your rights.
It's what Bob Thompson said. That's what I believe is what Bob Thompson
But
said.
he's from the network side of things.
Yeah, but he still knows what a Gore is, though.
That's what their view of it. But when you get into legal standards of this, that can be your view of it. You could have an attorney on one side, absolutely, this is what this means. And then they get into court and they're just like, I can't believe we didn't get the verdict. You can have a very strong opinion on something and be very well known in it, very strong, very respectable, such as Bob, but then end up in the end of this maybe being proven wrong. If Clemson wins this, what they're not invalidating Gores. What they're invalidating is the potential for a conference to use a Gore to hold you, to say you could leave and you don't have your natural rights. If they're natural rights, they're with you regardless. So that's where this is. And I would expect a highly ranked professional in the network industry to actually not like that or not think that's how it is, because that's not how it's been viewed in the past. But that may change.
Macular, what are like natural rights? Can you define that a little bit more? So
it's like your natural rights. They're beholden to you. They're yours and yours alone. No one can take them from you. You can, for lack of a better term, Daniel can get me right here, but you can project them onto someone else or another entity, but they're yours. No one can take them and hold them from you for however long. Because when people say, oh, but they signed a contract, contracts are contracts, but sometimes they're unenforceable. You can sign a contract and then they'll be like, this shouldn't have been. And so it'll be voided, or lots of other terms that aren't coming to mind. They're all legal terms. But I'm kind of curious what Daniel thinks on that, because that's where I see this. This has now become a debate on what power a Gore actually has.
This is such a great question. And if you read the causes of action, that Clemson has filed, and we're bringing up now what are defenses to this stuff. They're talking about the exit fee alone. It violates public policy. We talk about unconscionability. We talk about all those things when we're defending, because I think the ACC and everybody came out initially swinging like the grant of rights is ironclad. It's so enforceable. And if you guys have seen it, it's like 3 pages and it's referring to all these other agreements.
Yep.
Clemson kind of doubled down on that. It's actually in paragraph 2 of the complaint that they filed today, where they separate exactly what Immaculate is saying. You can separate it in the sense of, they say the grant of rights agreement is expressly and inextricably tied to and qualified by ESPN agreements. And they go on to say you cannot read those agreements in isolation, but they have to be read together. And any understanding of the media rights that Clemson granted to the ACC through the GOR must account for the fact that only rights necessary to enable the conference and its members to perform under the ESPN agreements were granted. And then they finish, put simply, the grant of rights agreement is not, as the ACC has claimed, a blanket grant of rights. It is explicitly limited by the ESPN agreements. So you have to understand what a gore really is. Because it's a piece of paper about, media rights, but the consideration for it, the main thing tying it is the agreement with the network. We don't know what those agreements look like. Heck, we can't even see our own. The ESPN agreement with Florida State and the ACC is not public. So we don't know what the other conferences have now.
And the gore is a different thing than the media rights agreement. The gore is between the schools and the ACC. The media rights agreement is between the ACC and ESPN. So by Clemson attacking the gore, but respecting the realm of the media rights agreement, that's when I say they're trying to be friendly with ESPN. I think that showcases where they're leaning, because they're not going after anything that ESPN is involved in. There's no reason for ESPN to be contacted even to give. Maybe I'm wrong on this, Danielle, correct me, but I don't even see a reason in this for ESPN to be contacted for a brief of support, however that goes. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not challenging anything they're part of. This is purely ACC business. And so I think that's their pathway, is they're not taking on anything ESPN related. It's just they're going after the ACC.
That's a great point, because we came out swinging. Like we want these documents public and stuff like that. To the point where the ACC had to file a motion to seal in North Carolina, and ESPN was allowed time to file a brief because they're involved. Obviously, there's a third party, and Florida State's like, turn it all over. Clemson was a little bit more protective, like immaculate.
Yep.
Let's do a quick rundown. We're at the top of the hour. Danielle, of course, you just tip your hat. If you need to go, you just let me know, okay? All right, excellent.
I might in a second, because I still haven't done forecast, so I can talk about.
Oh, you got to do your weather too. Stuff. Yeah. If you have to go.
What's really important? Come on, people don't care.
Obviously, if you have to go, just go. Wave and fine. All right. Really quick, I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. So many comments, 1,000 comments. We're not going to get to almost any of them. We've had special guest Danielle Kelly with us tonight. She's a lawyer. And Danielle, kind of tell everybody what you do and where you're from.
Well, I'm from Tallahassee. I'm actually from right here where Florida State is located. So y'all don't accuse me of the homerism argument on defending FSU's position either, because I'm a lawyer first, honestly.
Right.
But I graduated from Florida State. I've lived here my entire life, practiced law here. I've done sports shows and do weather for 2 radio stations here in Tallahassee, Wave 94.1 FM and Real Talk 93.3. So that's where I am. I'm DKelly21 on Twitter.
And we're talking about doing some sort of a Bravo Watch channel. Me and Jen and Danielle, and we're going to talk about Below Deck and Vanderpump Rules.
I have to watch. She's going to get on me I've got to.
Maybe some Bachelor. It'll be a lot of fun. Look forward to that. If you're into those things, that channel's coming. All right, let me get to another super chat here from Carrie. $10 super chat, and he's a member, by the way. This is for you, Moen. If and when FSU gets into the big, OSU will not only bend the knee, they will stay on their knees till they can overcome the 3-0 deficit FSU has on them. Let him cook.
Let him cook.
Bring those guys to the Big Ten right now, if that's the kind of talk we
I'm only hitting the sounder because you gave us money, Carrie. Because that comment is completely uncalled for. We did what you couldn't. We broke Miami. You couldn't break Miami. We had to do it for you.
Wow.
The Kings in the North.
Let him cook. Let him cook now.
The Kings.
Let him cook. I said let him cook.
All right.
Georgia Tech to that.
Georgia Tech. Your drinking game, drink, don't drive. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Carrie. That's a great comment. All right. So could you maybe do one more question, Danielle, or you got to go?
Oh, no, I can. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Okay. I've got some more follow-up questions for you. So, I wanted to answer you really quick. You said what happens after the gore falls apart. What was your question?
Yeah. So what happens when, the big question actually was what happens with the ACC agreement with ESPN if ESPN decides to not continue it, right? Because it seems like, oh yeah, you can just cut ties, go different ways and everything. But is that really realistic when you've got the ACC network and like this partnership with this conference? Like what kind of lawsuits are you looking at then on the ACC side to ESPN? It looks like that's a huge cluster. It sounds like to me. So that's really what I mentioned earlier.
I think I don't know. I can only speak from our fan base too, just to follow up on that point. The ACC network has done very little for us. I mean, these people couldn't even negotiate a deal with Comcast, and
Right.
half our fan base had to switch providers. And then we're, when we get it, we're expecting to watch football, and we get, corgi dog show races and stuff. I mean, I don't know what.
No.
I don't know what value they really have at the end of the day. I mean, really.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. All right, Moen, you didn't say anything about all that. Is there anything you want to mention about those things?
No, any billable hours, you send them right to Nate.
Yeah, that's right. I'll be right back, guys. So you guys are gonna have to go with me for a minute.
All right.
Yeah.
So Nate had to leave. Does anybody have any other questions for Danielle? Immaculate is rubbing his hands like.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah,
too.
I got a big question for while he's gone. I have to get this in right now.
Okay.
He leaves, and y'all are about to go
yeah,
off.
you ready?
Like,
Is he just one of the girls when y'all are sitting around watching the shows? Is he just, you got the nails going on with him.
Oh gosh, I'm tough. I got it.
Him and they talk so much about that reality show. He loves that stuff. So you guys, I feel like we're gonna lose him to you guys with that show. It's gonna become. So
I've never even watched any of it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm more I'm more documentary. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I watch weird stuff, I think.
Right, so what you got, Mo?
Yeah, so
I
Danielle, okay, I was going to see if you can help with this understanding of like what a grant of rights is, going back to that, because you're the best person to do that. So is it accurate to say that like a grant of rights is kind of like an NFL football player? Let's say like Pat Mahomes signs a 10-year agreement with the Chiefs. Chiefs own his football rights for 10 years, right? So he can't go to any other NFL team or bring his football properties anywhere else because the Chiefs own his football rights to perform in the field for that contract period. Is the grant of rights akin to that, but instead of bringing football talents, it's your media rights?
If it's between him and the Chiefs alone.
So yeah, that the agreement would be signed between Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's
different to me. It's different to me. And the reason being is the GOR itself, it is media rights. Yes, you're giving away that. But at the same time, there is a third agreement out there with a third party that is dictating exactly what happens with that agreement. So your scenario would be more ironclad to me. In the sense, it doesn't mean it can't be unconscionable or a violation of public policy and you can't challenge it on, hey, you're not allowed to, hold somebody for 10 years. But I think the issue with what a grant of rights is they are wholly dependent on a third party and a third contract, the media rights agreement.
I think there was one word that you used that really defines where this debate is at, and that's the word own. When you say that it owns, that the grant of right gives them the right to own those. That's where I say is what they are challenging right now. That's what Clemson is challenging, is that by signing a grant of rights, they don't give ownership of those rights to the ACC. They're simply allowing the ACC to negotiate in good faith for them along with the rest of the conference. So if they were to leave, that the ACC would not still have those rights because they don't own those rights, and that only Clemson would own those rights as their own natural broadcasting rights. So that, I think you nailed it with the question is that's where this debate is does it give ownership or does it simply give permission?
Exactly. And that's, and also violation of, if they fail to negotiate in good faith, that we have loaned these rights to you. I like to look at it that way. I know Stuart Mandel made that post earlier about selling the house, and I know you guys have probably seen it. No, I mean, basically we loaned it to you. This is a lease purchase. Let's look at it that way. It's an ongoing contract.
Exactly. This is a lease, and like the lease is tied up with a bunch of paperwork that nobody has access to, and
Mhm.
layers of paperwork, possibly, right? So nobody
Yeah.
actually knows the real terms. Is that really what's going on here?
It's really what's going on here. And the fun, I mean, because you can read, I mean, anybody can read the GOR that we have. It, like I said, it's like 3 pages. It's super short, but all the words in it mean a lot, and it will continually, over and over and over, refer to this ESPN agreement. So whatever that is, and I can't tell you that other conferences GORs, because I believe, if memory serves, the ACC basically copied the GOR from, was it the
The Big
Pac-12
12.
or the Big 12? It was the Big 12.
Yeah.
It copied the same exact thing, but it depends on I would trust the Big 12 to negotiate with ESPN better than the ACC did. Let's put it that way. I have Swafford and Skipper on back porches trying to say, Raycom, we are not the same. So I mean, it's just different to me. I don't know. It's wholly contingent on that agreement, and that's why Florida State wants it public. But Immaculate's got a great point. Clemson's not pushing for that right now. So
Right. And homerism aside, Danielle, who do you think has a stronger? I know obviously you can't see the ESPN document that's going to make the case for Clemson, but do you think Clemson or Florida State has a stronger legal argument against the ACC?
I would have to say Florida State, and only because the ACC in their rush to the courthouse did not get that vote. I know, and they're Monday morning quarterbacking now and trying to come up with all these asinine reasons why they didn't. Material, immaterial. Look, I don't know what immaterial litigation constitutes, and I have a law degree. I don't know what they're talking about. I'm trying to figure it out, but it makes no sense to me. So I think Florida State's argument on that is egg in the face back at them. Like, you did this on purpose. And that's what makes our argument stronger overall. I believe that.
Very good. Very good. What do you think? Let's just go to percentages, and we won't hold you to them. But what percentage do you think Florida State versus Clemson chance of success?
Ooh, well, I'm going to get put on the fire before they are. Let's put it that way. We got a hearing on Friday. So, and I know we'll all know a lot more after that. Like I said, it's not definitive on whether or not either wins in the long term. If FSU wins on Friday, our settlement agreement is going to pick up big time. Of course. I mean, let's be realistic. Knowing the Sunshine Law, knowing how committed to Florida, are you talking like buyout or actually winning the lawsuit?
Let's just say winning the lawsuit.
Ooh, well, I got 2 chances. I'm in North Carolina and Florida, so mine are higher.
Okay.
I'm gonna win
Law
it
of
more.
probability, but we'll accept it.
Wait. So you're telling me BYU just got voted out of the Big 12?
I can't believe BYU just got bounced.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. That's real funny.
Yes.
Danielle, are they treating you good after I left?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
They're
All right.
being
They
That's
better
right,
be,
guys.
because they answer to me. If not, really quick before we get to another comment, do we have a super chat? No more super chats. Want to let everybody know we are starting a Discord server. We're setting it up now. I'm looking for moderators. If you'd like to be a community moderator and would like to be on our Discord and kind of keep the conversations going, please send me a DM. It's just either one of the addresses underneath my picture. And yeah, let's talk, because I want to build that up. I want to put it out to the whole community. We're not quite there yet. So if you want to be involved, please send me a DM and we can go from there. All right, let's see. Was there a topic you wanted me to lead off on, guys? Where'd you leave
BYU
off?
getting kicked out of the Big 12?
Outside of that, we knew that was going to happen.
No, we left
Give
off
me
on
something else.
percentages and the laws of probability.
Okay.
I took the cheap answer on that one. I was like, my odds are better because I have 2 lawsuits pending. So I don't know.
Johnny Bard says, has any FSU 91, by the way, has anyone considered the ramifications as more programs unionize while conferences are debating the status of student athletes? And I would addendum and add to this, all of your experience in NIL. Did you guys happen to talk about that guy who got paid and left, Immaculate?
No, we didn't yet.
Oh,
Okay, so
I mean,
so
yeah, we don't.
yeah,
have
tell
enough news
her
for that.
what happened, because she deals with NIL. So tell her what happened. Let's get her
Well, you know,
professional opinion.
have you heard of Caden Proctor, the lineman from Alabama who left and was coming back up to Iowa?
That sounds familiar. But I'm like,
Well,
there's so much news hitting me right now. So.
today, the day before they're supposed to register for classes and kind of get sealed into a school, he announced that he's leaving again after he took $1 million in NIL payments, and he's going back to Alabama. Now, so we were talking. So people were asking, like, is there any contractual obligations for that money, or is a lot of this being just like, here you go, here's money, hopefully you stay? I mean, from what I'm seeing in the community, there were no stipulations. They were just giving it to him to come up here, and it kind of stinks right now. And so, the guys were kind of wanting to talk to you about what you thought on that and what possibilities there might be.
NIL contracts are, and that's why it really is a big deal who's getting these athletes to sign them and who, on behalf of the NIL collectives, who they are and what they represent. And I understand it would also depend on the states. We have to remember we're still dealing with the wild, wild west in some form or fashion, of the sense that some states are wide open on NIL. Florida's in that realm now. Some states aren't. And then you also have to look at, what are they signing? What did the NIL build into that to protect themselves if he decided to, take the money and run? And I think that's why there is a call for some kind of regulation and some kind of, the problem with it is you need some kind of oversight. You need some kind of collective way to handle things.
Mm-hmm.
But you've been dealing with the NCAA, who's out here, and has already lost at the Supreme Court level. And their way of regulation is to prevent transfer rule and deal with it with the transfer portal, which is their complete inept behavior to regulate anything, because it's still antitrust. It's just clothed in a different way. If you want, you have to have a cohesive, good system and good, competent leadership to oversee stuff like that, to prevent that from happening. We aren't even close to that yet. We're still trying to we're still dealing with the NCAA on how many lawsuits, how many are pending? I don't know.
I mean, just from
That's
the
a drinking game.
NCAA, there's 3 different class action suits just within that one suit. So the numbers are probably more than I have fingers to count them on. So that's about where we're at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree that it really does suck when that happens. I'm totally in favor of NIL. I'm glad it passed. I'm glad the NCAA finally got called out, but I also understand, there may be a legal cause of action but that's going to come down to what contract did the NIL collective have them sign with them. If there's a violation of that language from him taking the $1 million and heading back, then they can sue him individually.
Don't you think that he wouldn't have done that, though, if he didn't think he was, or had some advice that he was maybe going to be able to get away with it?
Yeah, and then you can ask for, discovery into that and figure out what advice or what happened, and kind of like FSU's suing the ACC, but asking for ESPN communications.
Right.
It's twice as messed up, because when he showed up, he accidentally had a little interview with someone where he was saying, "Oh yeah, Iowa kept in touch with me the whole time when I was in Alabama." So on the front end, he threw him under the bus for talking to him, and which they got a little slap on the hand from the NCAA. And then he pulls this. It's kind of weird. I mean, it's very odd behavior, and I think you start to see this happen more and more when we talk about big, huge piles of money for these very young individuals.
Are we certain that he actually got paid $1 million, or was the agreement for $1 million at some future point to get paid out? Because I'm fairly certain that he probably didn't get funded $1 million up front and just leave.
I don't know.
That doesn't seem like
that happened with the quarterback that was coming to UF.
Rashada.
Yeah, Rashada. Yeah. That was supposed to be like 13 million. How much did he get?
Yeah, and the collective couldn't come up with it, right?
Yeah, so he went to Arizona
money,
State.
so he left.
Finding $1 million for that guy for the Swarm probably was not hard at all. I'm just going to say that.
Well,
we're going to find out. Managers in the collective world, if that's the case, it's nuts.
I mean, he's from Iowa. He is a homegrown kid who was committed to Iowa before Alabama even came and talked to him. I can see why in any case, this is one where they might have thought there's no downside to this. Like, just give the kid the money. We don't it's not a big deal. This has blindsided everyone.
Well, I think it sets a precedent, though. I think there are reasons why the legal piece of it would matter.
There might be cases like this. This is just the most visible case because
Right.
of how the whole situation went down with Saban, with Alabama, him
Right.
coming back to Iowa. It's just very visible. We'll see.
All right. Let's get to some comments here. Again, Danielle, if you need to go, I don't want. I feel guilty of you being here with us on our
It's
time.
okay. I probably will in
Okay.
about 5 minutes. I'm
Okay.
sorry, just because I got to do
But
forecasts. But
your job is more important. JFJ, one of the not one of our members, but glad to have you here, JFJ. By the way, let's do a real quick call out. If you're not a member of Big 12 College Football Mafia and you would like to be, go to the College Football Mafia page and hit the join button, and you can become a member of that. Here's the short video on how to get that done. And we really encourage people to join us as members.
Want to become a member of the College Football Mafia family? Simply select the Join button from our homepage. There are several options with their own unique benefits to choose from. You can also set yourself to auto-accept gifted membership by selecting the gift settings options as shown.
And then I'd like to invite everybody to make sure you follow us on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube for our channel so that you know when our next show is going to be coming up. Make sure you turn on those notifications. And I want to thank everybody for being here. It has been a fantastic evening. All right.
Was that your voice in that video right there, the membership video? Is that you speaking?
Sort of.
It's a computer, isn't it?
It's really good. But I think it's Moan.
It's me, but I run it through a filter.
Oh, okay.
Very nice,
All
my
right.
friend. Good stuff.
So let's ask this to them. GFJ says, with ads drying up for both streaming and networks, as well as linear television decline, the teams in the ACC that can't join the new P3 is in for a completely new economic reality. So, yeah, how does the economics go from here, Jen? Can't we anticipate another 2+ years of this sort of storm around college football, NIL, funding? I don't know. I can't see a clear end in the near term. Can you?
me, I don't see a near term end for any of this anytime soon. And that started with, you can go through FSU's complaint and see us talking about Raycom and streaming services versus this versus that. It's been ongoing. It's just becoming public and everybody's learning about it now. And we're getting to the nitty gritty of what's really going on as we're heading into a new system. So that's going to take a while to fix itself overall to me, especially until you can actually get the network. I think the Big and Fox have done a great job. I think ESPN kind of doesn't know what's going on right now, but they've also been involved with the ACC, which will kind of blindside you anyway. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot longer. And I do feel bad. It's a new economic reality that some schools are really going to have to deal with.
Very fair. Anybody else want to comment on that?
Yeah, just to sum it up, you're totally screwed if you're not in the P3. Financially. I mean, that's really to sum it up. Like, you are so screwed if you're not in the P3. And like that goes for ACC leftovers, right? Like, you're talking about 12 to 13, 14, $15 million in media rights payouts. That's what you can expect going forward. And yeah, you're in trouble.
Anybody else?
Watch that Dartmouth situation.
What's that mean? Tell everybody what you mean.
Well, I mean, on the surface, it does look like the ACC is going to get screwed in this, and they're going to be lesser. And I can totally understand how everyone would say that, because if they have to just backfill with AAC type schools, they are going to fall behind. It's just reality, I think, at this point in time. But there's also some schools in the northeast part of this country who are facing a very real legal fight in terms of, first off, employment, unionization, their lack of scholarships in Division I, which is not supposed to be the case. Just the overall situation in the Ivy League is under fire. And they're going to have to decide maybe to do something extreme like give up sports or move to a conference where they can make money on sports. And if that was to happen, that's a wild card right there. I mean, then that's a whole new debate on value. How much would they help or not? But they certainly have a lot of money and a lot of influence and a lot of even governmental power to help with some of the NCAA issues if they wanted to.
Tony Lawson's chiming in with another comedic tip. We appreciate it, Tony, for $2 super chat.
Wasn't
He
lost on me.
says, my sources tell me he lost $1 million at the casino. Would that be the Seminole Casino? Do the Seminole
No.
Indians have their own casino?
He's making an Iowa jab there again.
I'm asking Danielle, do the Seminoles does the tribe have a casino? I'm asking.
We're not. We're gonna leave us out of this. I'm just
I
kidding.
was just teasing you. I was teasing you.
I'm messing with you. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Jeff Fuller says, "Sup guys? Pretty boring day, huh?" Yep, Jeff.
Yeah.
Super boring.
You know, just
Nothing to
another
talk
big-
about. All right, let's get to some more of these super chats, you guys. Sorry, not super chats. Comments that you guys have already marked for me. And we're going to go back a ways here. So if I repeat, I apologize. Mike Smith says FSU took the brunt of all the bad talk and bad guy image, but now that there might be a soft spot in the mirror, Clemson and probably more teams will start joining the fight to get out. Is that that's your assessment?
That's
there,
my assessment.
Danielle?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
my assessment. And I think a lot of Florida State fans are like, way to go, Clemson. You let us take, all the jabs and all the arrows and all the hit.
Right.
I agree. We did. We did the legwork. We've come out swinging a lot harder on ESPN and the ACC overall. But like I said, Clemson's new to the game. But yeah, we did. And now if Clemson's kind of joining in, like I don't know, they're very gentle in their complaint compared to us. But if they're joining in on that level, then yeah, I think other teams will start following suit. Depends on who's it going to be, though. That's what I want to know.
Right. Well, there's not a lot of bravery in that conference, so I'm not sure who it's going to be. Anybody else want to comment on that one?
Oh, I do.
Go ahead.
This is Tony Montana, the scene in the restaurant. Everybody needs the bad guy, man.
Take a
Say
look at the
hello
back guy.
to the bad guy.
I want to be the bad guy. I love being the one that got out in front.
That's
and
good.
did
I
it.
think it's cool.
love
Tony's from, he's from Florida too, so
Yeah.
it's a match.
All right. Sergeant Pickles, one of our contributors, says Cal and Stanford being part of 2 conference deaths in 2 years maybe shouldn't have turned down the big. Thoughts and prayers. I'm not sure what that's for,
Thoughts
but
and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers.
He's
Yeah,
trying to be thoughtful in a not very thoughtful way.
I was gonna say I'm not sure what that means there, Pickles. I'm
I
sorry.
get it.
You guys are better than I am then, if you understood that.
I get it. I
Let's
love
see
it.
here. Adam Limerize is here. Good to have you, Adam. He says, good evening. Ready for some college football and basketball. So how's everybody feeling about the tournament coming up? Danielle, did you fill out a bracket somewhere?
No, I did not do a bracket. I did not. We're kind of disillusioned down here right now in basketball anyway. But I will just say
Right.
this. It's I don't know. It's just
I think it's very difficult, and I'm going to do a whole show on this. We don't have to cover it now. But in my opinion, it is very difficult to be really good at both football and basketball.
It is. The ACC has kind of sort of tried or used us to try. And that's pretty much why we joined, it helped the basketball program. So it worked for a while, but eventually it is hard to be good at both. It really is. But our baseball team is 19-0. I just have to.
I know. I saw that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Do you guys want to comment on that at all?
I think you're right. And I think that a school has a choice to be really good at football or basketball. It's almost impossible to be good at both. So which one will you choose? That's how the University of Utah approaches it. That's how Florida State approaches it. UNC goes all in basketball and sucks at football. KU, pretty much the similar story there. So really, what are you going to invest your resources in, your fan passions in? And really, you can't have it both ways. Nobody's excellent at both. You pick one or the other. Ohio State's dominant at football and has its name because of football. This basketball team is pretty average. So really, that's how it goes. And I know, Moan, you don't like to hear that, but that's the fact, right?
Well,
you're not
average
building an
this
Ohio
season.
State basketball brand here.
Trust me, we're
right?
putting money in NIL for basketball. There's money in the NIL. There's always money in the banana stand. There's always money.
In the Big Ten, there's
banana
always
stand.
money everywhere. Yeah, it's coming out your
Yes.
ears.
Well, but I would just back up Ute and say that is true now, Moen. But the last 12 years, you can't say Ohio State's been a shining example.
No,
It
they've had
hasn't
some
been the
bad-
case.
They've made some bad coaching hires. and
You're not the only
extensions.
one. Utah made the same decision. 12, 13 years ago, they decided for us to grow and for us to be relevant, we're going to be good at football. They used to be really good at basketball.
Yeah, we used to
I
be
think
super
there are
good.
some schools and entities that can be good in both, but it's extremely difficult, and the number is very, very low.
I think it's a matter of time. It's not so much money; it's time management. And for your athletic department staff, who's dealing with all of these different focuses, all these different coaching staffs, because they don't just deal with football and basketball; they're dealing with all of their sports. So yeah, I do think you have to decide where you're going to put your time, where you're going to go in and manage, where you're going to spend that. And it does very much look like it's hard to do both and to be successful at a lot of sports all at once.
Very good. Go Black 45 member says if Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech, by the way, Louisville and
Georgia
Pitt
Tech.
join, then would the AAC pick apart the rest of the ACC? Wow. Look
Ooh,
at that.
man, go Black.
What do you guys think about that?
That's
pretty
kind of a harsh
hardcore.
reality right there. It could, but it likely won't.
Right.
'Cause, I mean, the remnants of the ACC are more valuable than the components of the AAC. So the ACC will likely pick apart the AAC because of the financial valuations of those schools that were previously P5.
And then the rest of the AAC merges with the MWC, and we
Yeah.
have one less G5.
Yep.
Bingo.
I think that's very real possibility.
So we've been talking about dominoes in the future. It's not just going to be, when the pack happened, we were saying watch the ACC. People are like, oh, whatever. It's like,
Right.
okay, there's steps to this, and there's going to be steps after the ACC as well.
Well, I'm going to give Jen an easy way to get out of here. Jen, I kept you an extra 10 minutes. Thank
Danielle?
you so much.
It's
for
Danielle.
joining
You
me.
said Danielle,
brother.
What did I say?
Danielle.
You said
Jen.
Jen.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm in a different
it's
place in
okay.
my
I
head.
love
I
her.
apologize, Danielle. I'm sorry.
No, do not be sorry.
Two pretty Florida State women. It's hard for me to not get you mixed up. All right. Thank you very much for being here, Danielle. I apologize about the name.
Thank you. And just tell Carrie, because I just saw the comment pop up, and I'm
Right.
not being negative about our basketball team. Florida State has done extremely well. I'm still mad about 2020. I'm very upset at what happened. So
Right.
I think that team could have gone all the way. So trust me, I'm a basketball nut overall. I'm also a Golden State Warriors fan, which a lot of people don't applaud. So
Well, then the move to the Big Ten would be huge. You guys would have extra money to put
you
into
go.
basketball, right?
there you
Yeah, that
go.
would be
Yeah,
very
I
cool.
agree.
I'm
But
sorry
thank
about the name thing, Danielle. I really apologize
Don't be
about that.
sorry. Do not be sorry.
Yeah,
I have children. I'm
doing-
always calling somebody the wrong name.
I'm doing
So,
mission
no.
control all the time, and I get distracted sometimes. I'm sorry about that.
I completely understand.
All
All right,
right.
guys. Thank
Good
you.
stuff,
catch you soon.
Danielle. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
See
you later.
Bye.
Thanks for stopping me there, guys. I apologize. I just wanted to get to the super chat before she left. Carrie for $4.99 says, fun fact, FSU is top 3-4 in ACC basketball over the last 15 years.
Well, there you go.
There you go. That's
Sometimes there's a little blip in the theory here, but really, football or basketball, pick your poison.
yeah.
Just note that football makes 80% more.
So does that mean Kansas
5 times
basketball
more.
is not just a 1-year thing? It's actually going to start dropping.
I could don't yes.
What's
I-
KU's?
That's
They
They
spent
win the
all
Big
of their
12
money
this
in
year?
football, not basketball.
Yeah, they have. They new football stadium, new all the. Yeah, I actually. Yes, my conspiracy theory is yes, they are.
So KU basketball is going to slide because they're focusing on football.
That's
Yeah,
my opinion.
Watch.
That's my opinion. I think it's all interconnected. I just haven't had the time or energy to put a short together about it, but I think it's a real thing.
Yeah, and you probably don't want to piss off all the Kansas fans in chat either.
Well, no, they can come in and be
No,
part of
I'm
it.
just teasing, but we've got a bunch of them in here.
Christopher EB says Florida won the Natty in football and basketball, in the same year.
Absolutely.
did.
That's a great comment.
You know who they
Really
beat?
good. Who'd they
Who did
beat?
They beat Ohio
Ohio
State.
State.
Ohio
both of-
State.
In both of them, by the way, Ohio State made the basketball finals with Greg Odom.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, so Christopher speaks to that like, yeah, there's some exceptions where a school can win both, but like that is the exception, not the norm. That's
All right. We got a question or a comment from X, formerly known as Twitter, and it happens to be a Kansas guy. Thanks for being here, Justin. Really appreciate it. Justin Lindsley from Twitter says Kansas to the Big Ten. So if we're looking at likelihoods and growth scenarios, I would only say the only opportunity they go is if it's 22 or 24. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I've got a very definite opinion on this.
Oh,
Okay.
uh-oh.
Oh, Jayhawk.
A Jayhawk squawk.
Jayhawk squat. All right. Anybody else?
Yes, I'm going to opine, but immaculate, jump in.
I agree with you. I think if it was to happen, it wouldn't be now. It would be maybe in the future when we have to start to fill out geographic divisions, which is not now. And maybe people aren't seeing it and don't think it's going to happen. That's fine. But that's why I think Kansas would start to get a look, is to help fill out a geographic edition or division. With this caveat, we might see Kansas get a look from the SEC. If, say, UNC has to bring North Carolina State, they get Clemson, that's 3. What do? Do we grab a Virginia or not? If they're tied together, they might look at a Kansas, improve that Missouri situation up there. Missouri's really coming along. You give them a rivalry, a real rivalry. Missouri does not have a rivalry in that conference right now. So if they want to boost that value, I kind of look at Kansas as a possibility in the SEC, which then comes to the point here for Justin. The Big Ten might have to jump early on Kansas if they are truly worried that the SEC might grab them. So that would be the one chance when I could see Kansas jumping sooner rather than later. And I highly suggest to all of our folks watching on Twitter X, who are watching us there, if you get a chance to come and join us on YouTube, we've got a great chat community going on here. You guys can't see it, but it's just scrolling like crazy right now. So I would suggest come join us if you want to give them the details on that. But very much appreciate the question from Justin on that.
So what does KU offer the Big Ten? So KU brings elite basketball in a new market, right? In KC. And academically, KU would be one of the lower end of the Big Ten based on where Big Ten teams rank, research spending, the like. But the SEC is really a surprisingly good fit, seemingly immaculate, like you said, because you pair them with Mizzou and all of a sudden you got a rivalry game there. You bring in basketball and all of a sudden you got Kansas and Kentucky, and you've got somebody that can, lose football games to the big football powers. So the SEC is super intriguing and adds a new market. I think the SEC is a lot more likely than the Big Ten for KU.
Okay, Moen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Kansas brings to the Big Ten exactly what it needs to bring to the Big Ten: a basketball power, a great brand, and a new market.
All right, very good. I'm going to have to leave tonight. I multitask every time, and I definitely have a real job I have to spend some time on this evening. So I'm going to sign off for everybody. You guys stick around. Immaculate and Moen, and I don't know who else is staying. They have cast of thousands. We're going to try to get through as many of these comments as we can. They're very important to us, and we really try to answer you guys' questions. There is another super chat out there you guys can handle. But I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Make sure one last time, follow us all on Twitter. Definitely subscribe on YouTube. Turn on your notifications. And lastly, if you want to get next level into this Mafia family group that we're putting together, send me a DM on Twitter or an email to the email address on the main website on YouTube, and we'll bring you in as a moderator. I'd love to have you do that. We're going to build that community, and pretty soon people are going to be talking there and getting news even before they get it from anybody else in the world. So other than that, I'm going to sign off. You guys have a great night. Stay out of trouble. I want to make sure who's logged in as admin before I leave. Moen is. Okay.
Moen.
All right. Everybody else have a great night. I appreciate it. Stay out of trouble. And catch us tomorrow night, 8 Eastern. It'll be me and Jen Knoll. Jen Santee will be with me for an hour and a half or so. We're going to have some guests, and it's just going to be more realignment college football. So be with us then. Other than that, everybody have a great night and stay out of trouble. Peace out.
All right, Dad left, guys. Let's
All
get
right.
the liquor and hookers in here.
Georgia Tech. Georgia
Tech. Let's get a super chat here from my buddy Kerry.
You've taken over.
FSU has been to College World Series baseball 23 times. That's a lot of
Holy
times.
smokes!
They are a baseball power.
Yeah, and so the football basketball theory doesn't apply to any other sports. That's just for revenue generating sports. Where are you going
Well,
to focus your resources?
now you don't know that they're not a revenue generating sport for Florida State.
I can pull that up right now. We can check.
Yeah, there are sports like example, Tony Lawson. Thank you for the super chat, by the way, Kerry. Big Ten has won 16 straight wrestling national championships. Wrestling is a revenue sport for Ohio State. Believe it or not,
Really?
Iowa too.
it generates revenue. It generates revenue
Because
for Iowa,
they have very low costs.
Penn State.
Okay, yeah. Let's rephrase this. Is it a profitable sport? You can
Yes.
generate
Well,
a
it
dollar of
generates
revenue.
revenue.
Is it making any
Well,
money?
It pays
Still
for itself.
profit.
You're
Yeah.
not having football pay for it. You're not. I mean, it pays for itself basically.
Right. Boy, oh boy, man. There's so many questions here, guys. I'm going to try and get through
We're
them.
gonna have to power through some of these.
We're going to really have to power through them because there's like 50 of them that are marked.
Been marking a lot, guys.
So I'm going to run through them as quick as we can, get them somewhat winnowed down.
We may not get through them all either. So if there's something you absolutely wanted to get asked, I would suggest, even if it's just a
You're
small,
good.
small super chat, but
Yeah,
we're gonna push through as much as we can.
right. Brett Taylor, I remember when off-season excitement was a coaching carousel. So do I.
Yeah, those days. Now a guy steals $1 million from a collective, and we're like, meh, not really big news.
We didn't
He
really
blew it at the
steal
casino, immaculate.
Hey,
blew
it's
it.
all about
He did
perspective.
enroll. He enrolled in Iowa for like 8 weeks.
No,
I mean,
he did
come
not.
on.
He did not. That was the thing. He left the day before.
Yeah, you already answered that.
He didn't delete it.
Boy, bomber. Mower After Dark looking like he's in his Sunday best on a big day. Thank you very much. And this is another one he didn't mark off.
I'm curious about the SEC fans. Do they want to add KU to the SEC in the future if that ever happened? Is that something that is a good fit from an SEC perspective, Jamie? I know from an Arkansas perspective, I'm curious. And other SEC fans out there, put in the chat or leave a comment after. What's dialogue about that? That's interesting.
Tony Lawson reminds us Minnesota is undefeated against Clemson. That might scare them off. That must have been back in the 30s. Expedition Greg, good to see Expedition Greg, fellow Buckeye. I expect more fireworks tomorrow.
Expect fireworks all week.
I expect fireworks all week into next week. Yeah. Trust me, next week is going to be big too. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more.
Football season's going to feel like a vacation.
Next week, Moan? Next week, yeah?
Yeah. I wonder if ESPN and Fox went into CFB playoffs expecting this was happening. They were making this happen.
Yeah,
They weren't suspecting.
Suspecting's a little
making.
light. Like, I suspect we're going to work on this together, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, they knew.
Immaculate, I was talking about this on the Sunday show with Moen After Dark when I got the word last
did.
week that Clemson. She did. She absolutely called this. Jamie Thornton's got a good source. We're going to start tapping that source and not letting her spill it in chat.
Out. It definitely proved out. I mean,
It
there's
proved
sometimes
out.
you're like, yeah, I can see it. Maybe this was no doubt. They got the wink and the nod and they acted quick.
Yep, she was spot on about Virginia too. Patrick, Cal and Stanford will rebuild the ACC as an Ivy League type of conference. That's called the Immaculate Plan.
People, they take shots at them and they deserve every single bit of it. But also keep in mind, they're being very quiet. Worried people don't stay quiet. Worried people act out, lash out, do all kinds of stuff. Stanford and Cal have been very quiet through this whole situation. So I tend to think Stanford and Duke and that whole faction, I think they have a plan. We'll see.
You know who was really quiet during the Pac-12's demise? Cal and Stanford, because they don't have any fans. They don't have any fans to freak out.
They weren't quiet. They were sending around Condoleezza Rice to everyone to get everyone in line about getting them to where they wanted to go. They were acting in pack times. They just don't get some guy who writes for some periodical or some article to talk for them. They went around and did the Stanford thing. But they've been very quiet for this time.
Chad Bracey, the ACC is used to taking lower settlements. It is in their nature. They did it with the media deal and with the CFP. It is their destiny. Wow.
That is a solid comment.
And like it. That's the best part right there.
Whoa,
like it.
hey.
There we go. Sorry.
Notified.
And this is all the way from beginning in the chat. Johnny Bard wanted to clarify he worked at UCF, but he graduated from FSU.
Ah, yeah.
Then Expedition Greg, honestly don't think the SEC will expand past 18. I'm kind of in the same boat as you are now. I think if they can get Clemson and North Carolina, that's plenty.
If North Carolina can break away. I mean, it's okay to say that they will, and that's quite possible. But they might not be able to break away from North Carolina State.
Yes, the Wolfpack backpack.
The Wolfpack backpack.
The Wolfpack backpack's not going to work. It never was. It's not going to work. I just somebody tell me why it makes financial sense for Clemson to go to the SEC. I've been pushing back on this for months. Like it's
for Clemson or for the SEC to add Clemson?
For the SEC to add Clemson. Like
Because
so, if I'm
brand.
the SEC here, I'm trying to earn everyone more money. I care about that. I care about lifting the pie. Tell me how Clemson's going to make me more money.
They have a national brand. It is a national brand.
And I've just told you why I think now what they did for the SEC was they valued the CFB ownership stakes. This is what we're essentially talking about. We talk about voting rights, we talk about payouts, and we talk about this percentage. It's ownership shares. It's the percentage that ownership that you have in the CFP LLC. It's a private company. And what they did for the valuation of the thing that they produce in the future, in 26 going forward, is based upon prior participation. And so while they're valuing the conferences, they're actually doing it through which members participated. And by doing it that way, they just put a big old price tag on Clemson's head, a huge one, because they have about as much participation as anyone else. So now taking Clemson from the ACC and putting them in the SEC, when they have that 2028 re-eval, it's going to give the SEC a whole lot more of that.
They'll get a percentage or two more than they were getting before in CFP. But let's talk about what does that actually look like in dollar cents when you divide it up by 17 schools. It's not nearly as big as you think. That's nice for one school, but it's going to be a couple $1 million per school, and we're talking about $100 million media contracts.
Yeah, but while they're doing
$25 million
this, they're expanding from 8-game seasons to 9-game seasons to possibly 10-game seasons. So that's also a huge amount where they're going to get a big payoff from ESPN. And ESPN refused to pay them directly to do that. They weren't just going to give them a pile of money. So when ESPN did that, which there would have been a value. When that happened, I was like, why wouldn't they pay the SEC to do that? That's huge. You go from playing Worcester State out of wherever to playing another SEC game. There's huge value in that, but they wouldn't do it. And so that's what kind of told me back then that ESPN had some other plan in mind for when taking those extra SEC games. And I think it's when they bring over schools, that's what's going to help pay for it. The large amount. I think there might have been this little difference. It's not quite there. It's not quite there. And this last little bit got it over that hump.
I can't get my mind around how Clemson makes financial sense. I can hear everything, but you guys, it just doesn't make sense. Financially, okay. I'm telling you, maybe if they came at a 50%, or some serious revenue discount, the Big Ten, they had so much more value. It's so much more value. It's from the dollar and cents, the Big Ten makes a lot more sense than the SEC with Clemson.
But Clemson also wants that local viewership. The big part of Clemson is the in-stadium experience. You think they don't want to be in a conference where they're going to play South Carolina, where they want to play Georgia, where they want to play Auburn, where they want to get down and play Florida? If North Carolina's coming in, that they don't want to stay with them. I just think that even if they have to take a slight pay cut, I think for Clemson and for their culture, I think that they would much prefer the SEC. They're not striving to be a major research power. They're not striving for AAU. I mean, I know people are going to say, "Oh, they're doing this and that." it's not really a major goal of theirs. So I think that the SEC for them is where it would be. And you might be right. Maybe they do have to take a pay cut at first. I don't know. But it seems to be right in line with what happened with the CFP this weekend.
All right. Edward Wayner, do you think UNC will avoid filing a lawsuit to avoid a suit being held in North Carolina?
Nah. There's already why. I mean, I know people talk about it, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, most of the time people file at home because it's close. Your lawyers are ones that are close by. You deal with them. You don't want to pay them to travel. You know how much you got to pay lawyers to freaking travel, and where are they going to want to stay? Like the best hotels, like so. You want to file at home. So that's the main reason for filing at home. I don't think that stops UNC at all if they want to file. And remember, they're the last school to file now that voted no to the expansion. So are they going to file? Well, they call me the gambler. If I'm betting my money, I'm betting that they're filing.
Yeah, I'm betting they're filing too. Absolutely. In the state of North
Put that
Carolina.
money down on that bet right now. I'll take that bet all day long.
Our buddy Drake Toll, the party animal, was in the house
Drake?
tonight.
Dude,
Thanks,
I cannot
Drake.
believe how successful he's gotten with that. Sorry, but man,
Yeah. I want that fur coat. I'm so
I can't
jealous.
believe. I thought that was like this must be his fun phase. What he's going to go have fun doing. And then they're in Texas Arlington Stadium with full crowd that the Major League Baseball team that plays there can't even get. Well done, sir. Well done.
Well done.
Mr. Monkey says partnering with Notre Dame is like partnering with Texas. That's why you subjugate them. Subjugate them.
What's the mascot's name for Notre Dame? What's the Irish guy? You know,
he's just a leprechaun, as far as I know.
he's just a leprechaun. He doesn't have like
He's
Mickey
just
or
called
anything.
no, I think he's just called the leprechaun.
Okay.
Whoever they can find that has red hair and can grow a beard. That's basically the qualifications. Ron Elite, good to see you, Ron. I haven't seen you around here before. I could see Notre Dame spite the Big Ten, similar to how the SEC spite FSU, and Notre Dame becomes SEC members. Would be hilarious if it happens. Yeah, that would be
That would
hilarious.
definitely be hilarious.
But I don't see Notre Dame wanting to go into that meat grinder.
No, and they need games across the country. And if, like we were just talking, if the SEC is going to 9 and 10 games seasons, it's not enough cross country coverage for them.
All their historic rivalries, Big Ten and what in the pack, and now it's essentially the Big Ten with the USC.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the Big Ten or nothing.
Tough Tony, Big Ten will want a travel partner for Florida State. Travel is a two-way street. I agree.
I mean, it sounds like Tony is coming along line for GT. Let it go, Tony.
Or Miami. I mean, it's not like
It's traveling the wrong direction.
or
That's
Clemson,
distance.
as you tends to think. But I still
Clemson
won't
and
agree.
Miami. Y'all. Both.
Not without Notre Dame. Sankey made it clear he even jabbed the other conferences, saying they do not have to be coast to coast or nationwide. They like their geographic footprint, and we like them right where they're at.
We like their geographic footprint too.
Yep.
Coming for it.
They can stay down there. With having seen this Christopher EB, with having seen DoD contracts terminated because of the different interpretation between shall and will, any contract, including the Gore, can be terminated. There you go.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
there are lawyers whose their entire job is to break contracts. It happens quite often.
I like this comment from Dan Miter. I thought March Madness was on the basketball court. This is getting real juicy. Who will be first four out, last four in realignment?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it's becoming realignment's becoming more exciting than the actual games.
Yeah, first four out are going to be UNC, Clemson, Florida State, Miami. Last four in are going to be Louisville, Pittsburgh. Man,
You want to put Syracuse in there, Moan?
I do. I still want to put Syracuse in there.
Hmm.
Louisville, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, and North Carolina State. That's
What do you
mine.
think,
You guys
Immaculate?
you guys have any? Who's your first four? Last four out, first four in.
Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and North Carolina State.
Okay.
Then the last four would be Louisville, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, and well, can I do a 3+1 instead?
No.
I'm not quite
What you
sure.
want?
No.
I guess who I would say that they would probably take would be, I guess it's Syracuse.
Oh, you're leaving Miami out in the cold, huh?
Well, I think Miami's got other plans, and they've
Okay.
already accepted receipt of payment in the form of an AAU membership along with Notre Dame. So I think someone's been ratting things out. Someone has been playing dirty, and I think it's the convicts.
All right. Well, what do you think? You give them your
Yeah,
four
so
of the
the
four.
first four out, you got to say Florida State's number one, UNC is number two, Clemson, and then Miami. Those are the first
Okay.
four out. The last four in. I think you're looking at Pitt gets in.
Oh, I forgot a Pitt. Yep.
I think that you get and Virginia Tech's just right there on the cusp. Throw Virginia Tech in there, Syracuse, and let's say Georgia Tech.
All right.
Lots of tech.
That's that. King Spleen, fantastic username. Would it be fair to say the GOR is similar to a power of attorney? You allow someone to act on your behalf.
That's where I think they're pushing this to go. Whatever direction this goes in, it's going to go one way or the other. I think they're trying to say that it's less ownership and it's more we give you the ability to speak for us, and we can take that back at any time we want.
All right. I tend to agree with you. Jim F., the only thing the Ivy League doesn't have is fans.
That can be changed. You know what I would do? Like if I was in Ivy school and I really wanted to get some fans, I'd go to like Nike or a sports apparel maker, and then I'd go to a high fashion house and say, we need you guys to come together and work together to create new uniforms that people really haven't seen before. And you take these new looks and you take those and you market them and sell them. Because how much money do people pay for some high fashion house's t-shirt? Like a couple $100.
Yeah,
Like-
we'll wind up with knit sweater jerseys. Come on. You
Hey,
know it.
you would be surprised what people will pay if they think, oh, this is the elite thing. So if I'm the Ivy, you start to pull in all those connections that you have, and people might be surprised what they could do.
What would happen if the Ivy League went D3? Would that change the NLRB ruling?
Probably not, but it might change what they would be paying. Because now if you're not, that's a tough one. Because in D3 there's no scholarships, but the NLRB is about employment. I don't know. It might drop it, but then it might stick, and then they're still in the same position.
Francois Dillinger, good to see you, Francois. How much is Fox going to pay for FSU and Clemson? $200 million a year. I think they both get full shares no matter where they land.
I disagree with that. I think Florida State gets a full share and Clemson gets a half share.
I understand the valuation, and but I think Clemson doesn't do what they just did unless they were happy with what they're hearing. And I don't know if half share gets it done. Maybe it does, but I think that they could probably hold out a bit longer and say, no, we want at least, I don't know, 3/4 to a full. But I think Mo might be right. I think they might have heard what they wanted to hear, and with the new valuation from the CFP, I think they got it. But it's not from Fox. I think it's from ESPN and the SEC.
Jamie Thornton, nope, for sure. They tried to force Arkansas into a rivalry. That's with Missouri.
Mhm.
Nobody at Arkansas cares about Missouri. We have our real rival back this year in Texas.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah. They need to do something for Missouri, man. Because if Missouri was just sitting up there being a Vanderbilt, then you're kind of like, well, who cares? But Missouri's balling. I mean, they are coming after things, and I'd say give those people something up there so that you get more people in Missouri excited about that. get a game that's big for them on TV. You know, what if it was Missouri and Kansas playing for the first time as conference members again in Kansas's brand new stadium? I mean, ESPN's putting that stuff on ABC. I don't care what you say. That is on ABC.
Right. Yes, go Black 45. Yes, I would love to add them. That KU Missouri game was nasty. I think they will have a rivalry with Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and obviously with Kentucky in basketball.
That KU, the SEC, just really seems to fit well in a lot of ways. Geographics, market, like rivalry-based basketball, like it just brings a lot to the SEC. So, I mean, that's something to really look out for. If that's going to happen. It's probably going to shake that way.
I agree with you, except one point, culturally. I think culturally they align much more with the Big Ten.
What do you think about Mizzou? I mean, Mizzou culturally is just like KU, essentially.
It was, and they tried to get into the Big Ten, and they screwed
Hey,
around.
Nate.
Messed it up.
Hey, I was a little early, so I got a little bit more time.
We're just pushing through the last few chats, and then we're
Go ahead. Yeah, that's
calling
fine.
it out.
I just came to watch.
Dan Miter, I don't see Kansas joining the Big Ten. Their new football stadium is only 40,000. Old stadium was 47,000. Don't know if that is big enough. Plus, you take away the Sunflower rivalry. Northwestern Stadium, I think, only holds 38. The new stadium only does 38,000.
And their old one was like 45. So it's the new trend to get smaller as long as you're filling in. It's a great atmosphere.
Missouri, from Illini Ted, Missouri is one of those schools that went all in on football at the expense of basketball.
It's true. They used to be a basketball, I wouldn't say a powerhouse, but they were strong.
They were competitive.
Yeah.
They were competitive year in and year out.
What are you going to be? What's your identity as a university? KU's identity is basketball. I don't care how good football gets. They will always be a basketball school. Utah's going to be a football school. BYU's a football school.
I don't know. BYU beat Kansas. But Kansas will probably beat them in football.
I think every school has their time, right? You're going to in and out, but I agree. I think you got to be all in on something, and certainly they're putting money to football left and right. So,
what's your identity, football or basketball?
Some schools want it to be both. I'm kind of thinking maybe BYU wants to try to do both, but the reason it's outstanding in my head is I don't know how you could compare the numbers, right? You have to put football up against basketball, and people like basketball in Utah County, and they love their team, but yeah, it's kind of bipolar, to be honest. The next 3 years will definitely tell, though. I agree with you. They're going to have to make a decision. I don't think you can do both unless you're Ohio State or Michigan or Alabama or Georgia. That's just my opinion.
Right. Brandon Unruh. Miami was the lone Magnificent Seven school that voted for the ACC to sue Florida State.
Except for Virginia, where the president, who is kind of the chairman of the board, is. I think Virginia also voted for it, and possibly Virginia Tech. But yes, Miami. Someone leaked the existence of the Magnificent Seven in the first place.
Yeah, I've always wondered that. Who
And
did that?
I said back then that I thought it might be Miami. And sorry to our show friend. I don't mean it as a bad thing to them. They're doing what they think is in their best interest, and that's fine. But that was my feeling, is that I thought it was Miami.
Right. Jared Jones. I will bet my life that Notre Dame will never join the SEC. All my Notre Dame friends say they have zero interest in that. If they join, they all want the Big Ten. It makes sense. Notre Dame's natural rivals are in the Big Ten. Michigan, Purdue, Michigan State, USC. They're on the Big Ten now. The only ones that aren't are like Pitt, Georgia Tech, Stanford. And you could
Who aren't
easily
in the SEC.
And you could easily replace all them with a rivalry against an Ohio State, a Wisconsin, I mean, obviously you're not going to have small schools to beat up on anymore like Georgia Tech and Stanford, but in Pitt, eat shit, Pitt.
Yeah, they got UCLA.
Yeah, you got UCLA. They could beat up on UCLA.
They like going to LA.
Larry, the GM, with a great point. Why would Clemson go to the Big for half share if they're the one school both conferences will want?
that's part of
I
it.
don't think that the SEC wants them.
Hmm.
Okay. Like that's, I mean, maybe for a minimal payout, but I just don't think they're nearly as attractive as you guys think for the SEC. I mean, like their viewership numbers, they're not nearly as big as Florida State's. Like they've got a couple titles and stuff. They don't bring basketball. They're in the like town of Clemson. Like, I mean, I guess like an hour and a half away is Atlanta. You already own that for the SEC. Like you can just say brand. Okay, their football history and brand, right? But I just don't think when in the SEC you've got plenty of those. It's not a big value add. It's not synergistic. So I think the Big Ten's going to go want them more by 50%.
Right. I don't disagree. We'll see. We'll see. Next week, folks. Next week.
I see the
Next-
logic. The
Tune
logic
in
makes
next
sense.
time.
Next
Same
week.
bat time, same bat channel. I just want to thank everybody for being here. We've got over 500 people watching between Twitter and YouTube. We've just got through the log jam of big questions, but we're going to be wrapping up here in about 5 to 10 minutes. So any other messages that aren't super chats, we're going to try to get to as many as we can, but I can make no promises. We have over 1,100 comments in the chat tonight. Outstanding people, outstanding.
Absolutely.
Appreciate and love all of you. Just a reminder, if you want to become a member or leave a super chat, you can just click that little cash icon. If you want to gift a membership, you can click that cash icon. By all means, if you could give us a like, that costs nothing and helps us tremendously on our stream. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, give us a subscription. We've got some great short form video content coming down the pipeline as well.
Yeah, why don't we preview that again one more time? What's
That's
coming?
right.
What's coming?
Tomorrow we've got Kuz's Corner.
Oh, right.
He's going to debut on our members only section, his video on Notre Dame. And what do you have coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, we're going to take a look at Oregon State and Wazoo to the Big 12. That was a request from our community through a poll up, and that's what you guys want to see. So we're going to look to see how strong candidates they are for the Big 12. And, of course, we're going to look at these ACC candidates that are going to come down the pike, too, for the Big 12. But Wazoo and Oregon State's first up on deck.
That's right. Another member benefit. We allow you to vote in the polls to control the direction of Wild Ute University. He's the dean, but he's letting you steer the ship for the Wild Ute University moving forward. So, Opie Didon, good to see you, Opie. Missouri has announced a $62 million anonymous gift in support of renovations to Memorial Stadium and the athletic department's Tiger Scholarship Fund, $12 million to NIL. And remember, Missouri is a state that allowed kids in high school to make money off NIL if they commit to an in-state school.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
In high school.
In high school, yes.
Yep.
And hopefully that's not just like renovations to the existing. Hopefully that's a little bit of an expansion.
Gifts.
I think Missouri could use a little bit of a heightening of their stadium to try to keep some of the noise in there. It gets pretty quiet.
We've got 5 gifted memberships from Summit Hawk. Thank you, Summit Hawk.
Winner.
What is going on?
Give that man his
Let him
Jayhawk.
cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
Yes.
Hidden
Yes.
Hawaiian, Derek Myrie, Wayne Russell, Right of the Line, Scavin, yes. You were all gifted memberships by Summit Hawk. Thank you so much, Summit Hawk, for doing that for the community. Right after this show, make sure you guys thank Summit Hawk in the chat. If you're watching on demand, make sure you thank him in the comment section. It's the right thing to do. And after this show's over, head over to our members only section to watch Georgia Tech's fit in the Big Ten. And like I said, tomorrow we have Kuz's Corner coming up there with the Notre Dame video. And then we will have Wild Ute University. How does Oregon State, Washington State fit in the Big 12?
And then my show tomorrow night with Jen Knoll. Jen Santee will be joining us at 8 Eastern tomorrow night. Same BAP station.
Yep.
Hey,
Sure.
Moan, how do you
Same.
get that cool Georgia Tech like icon in the comments? I know that some of our community members have a Georgia Tech icon, leaving comments after show.
Members get access to unique emotes. So they get access to the drink, the winner. We don't have a let him cook one. You know what? I'm going to make a let him cook emote. Maybe with like a chicken or something. So we can let him cook. There we go. See, Summit Hawk hits us with the Georgia Tech. Okay.
Cheers, Summit.
Georgia Tech.
It's Tuesday. I'm not drinking today.
All right. Well, I'm not going to do a double for Immaculate, so
Appreciate it. I wouldn't want you to,
thank you
Water.
again for those gifted memberships, Summit Hawk. You're an absolute legend in the community. We love and appreciate you for everything you do. And then you just see Buckshot Kid here. He's displaying all the unique icons you get in chat. Fist bump, the beer glass, all the conference icons, cash
Georgia
splash,
Tech one's so
at
cool.
Georgia Tech, the winner. So many cool things. And we're going to have new ones on there, guys. We've hit the membership threshold where we can add new emotes on there. So if you guys got any ideas or suggestions, by all means, hit me up on Twitter. Let me know. I'd love to hear them. I think we will get a Let Him Cook one in there, but I think we have room for 2 or 3 more. So
What about
let
Notre
me
Dame
know.
guy bending the knee, that leprechaun guy?
What?
Bending the knee over?
What?
Well, they kind of do that on their logo already, if you know.
They do. That's true. That's true.
It's kind of on their logo already. So
It is. I've always wondered. It looks like they're about to do that dance. You know, the dance. It's exactly what it looks like.
I don't know that dance, Bomber.
Please set that up.
I
It must have been
can
the-
Are you
find a
thinking of like
video
the
for you.
Tebow? Like the Tebow?
I don't know. People walk. They take a step and they put their fist out. Then they take another step and they put their fist out. It looks like the leprechaun's walking along, doing one step after the other with its fist out in front of him. Like who's he going to beat up?
We call that fighting in Ohio, Bomber.
Didn't look like a
But
fight
you're-
to me. And that's a
All right.
problem because that's messaging right there. That's a problem.
Want to get this? We're going to leave it with this one. This one thing. I apologize I couldn't get to everybody tonight, guys. Like I said, over 1,100 comments, 500 people viewing. Thank you guys so much. We love this community. You guys are a great community, the best community. There's nobody like you out there. Rock and Rant, Mr. Miami wants to clarify. There is literally no source that shows Miami did or didn't vote for the lawsuit. There is a source saying Miami voted to have a meeting. So he
There you
wants
go.
that clarified and put forth in the record.
Okay. We're not going to hold you to it. I promise, Rock. We won't.
We won't hold you. Yeah, we won't hold you guys to it. But thank you, everybody who joined us tonight. Again, check out Bomber Show with Jen Santee tomorrow at 8 p.m. And then we will these guys will rejoin you for the Big Freakin' Friday show on Friday. I don't know if I'll be recovered enough from my surgery to do it then. But I want to thank everybody who's given me love and prayers on Twitter and here in the chat. I appreciate
Prayers
you all.
for Moen.
Yeah.
Prayers for Moen.
Yeah, hopefully I keep my beautiful singing voice. We'll see. We'll see. Other than that, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Again, you're an awesome community. We couldn't do this without you.
See ya.